Recruiter. That's the second week in the freaking row I've done that. On the Recruiter podcast. God, speak English, Craig. You're doing a podcast nationally, internationally. My goodness. On today's Recruiter podcast, I have a very special friend and guest here, Mr. Ryan Parker, the director of Beacon Animal Rescue. Let's hear it for Ryan. Dixie, how about a little applause?
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Oh man, it's great having you. Thanks for taking the time into doing this. I know you have like zero time in your life, so
yeah, it's around the clock for sure.
I really appreciate it. So what we're going to do, I want to jump right into it. So, and then we'll, as the program goes along, we'll discuss more how we met, and we can talk about anything. We've talked about anything. Christ, man, we've covered everything in my kitchen, haven't we, over the years?
And we sure have.
Aliens and you name it. We've talked about it.
I think it might have even been the seed for some of this.
It was, right? Yeah, I want to talk about that. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So here's where I want to start. So just so the audience knows, and most of our audience is, well, I don't know if most of it is. That might not be true. A lot of our audience is in the automobile industry. One thing I've learned about automobile dealers, and we're going to talk about a lot during this podcast, is they're really into dogs. They're really into adoption. They're really into rescue. There seems to be some sort of correlation. As a matter of fact, I think you're doing an event with the Burke Automotive Group.
Burke Auto Group.
In November, right?
I believe it's yeah. They're incredible.
Yeah.
They've been a huge supporter of ours just recently, and it's been a great relationship so far.
Yeah. Well, they've been there, like, man, that's got to be like third generation. They always seem like nice people down there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to get my my contacts at Chapman. So Bill Kasner, I'm going to send you this. So let's hold an adoption event at your big Ford store. Bennett Chevrolet, all the dealers in South Jersey. Anybody within, how far would you go? Hour and a half?
I think an hour right now would probably be our limit.
All right, good. We got plenty of dealers. Matt Blatt, shout out to Kobe Fryer that was on the show a couple weeks ago. Kobe, this would be an awesome event for you to hold at the Matt Blatt stores. They're a great group, good friends of ours, clients of ours.
Heard a lot of good things.
Yeah, they're awesome, man. They do a great job with social and.
And I saw what was his name? He was on your podcast. What was it, last week? The gentleman from Matt Blatt. Wasn't there?
Yeah, that's Kobe Fryer.
Okay, yeah. I watched that podcast.
Oh,
that was a good one.
Yeah, he's awesome. So my question to you, and it's pretty generic, but I think it's a good starting point. I want to ask you this, and then I got to do a couple live reads. The friends of the program help pay for all this stuff. The $1 million producer Dave over in the next room. It's a guy makes $500,000 a year producing our podcast. Mm. Yeah, that's a fib. But so we're going to pay for this thing. So I'm going to do a couple live reads. But what I want to, in the meantime, in doing some research for the show and just being around you for years now, epidemic is not too big a word. It's a crisis. It's worldwide, but just nationally, the amount of dogs, cats, exotic animals, I mean, it's ridiculous, but the numbers are off the charts, and I got some statistical data that we can get into, and you can give me your thoughts on that. But we got 2 hours or so to fix the adopt, don't shop cliche phrase that everybody uses. How can we all help in alleviating this ridiculous situation where, you know, I mean, some of the data I looked up, and we talked about just like for 30 seconds pre-show, but, you know, I looked up, I Googled a couple things. It said Houston has 1 million strays, 1 million. Detroit, 500,000, most of which are feral, and some of them are second, third, fourth generation. I mean, these are wild animals at this point. supposedly there's around 70 million. Now, I don't know what the breakdown is, dogs, cats, and other animals. I don't know who they throw into that figure, but only 6 to 8 million are getting put into what the Humane Society, and I'm not sure, I don't know if they're anything that has society in it scares me a little bit, but Groucho Marx line, any group that would have me as a member, I don't want to be a member of. So, but supposedly there's 3,500 shelters, which I want to talk about that number too, because that seems like a weird number. But supposedly only 6 to 8 million of these strays or animals are finding their way into shelters. So, I mean, we got a big problem, and I know you well enough to know, and I've heard the stories. I mean, it basically you place, You rescue, let's see, you find homes, forever homes, if you will, for 10 dogs and cats. You got 11 sitting outside your door that need to be.
I wish the number was that small.
Yeah.
It's like I got 500.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, some thoughts after I get done with the reads. Just take us from there and the how you see the overall issue, the problem, maybe some solutions, and maybe we can find some solutions today. One of the big solutions is money, and we need to talk about that. And I know people don't like to talk about money. People bring up money at church, and it's like, oh, don't talk about money. People talk about money. Yesterday there was I don't know if you happen to notice, for 24 hours, people in the car business got together and for human trafficking, and did a 24-hour live Facebook thing where however many people, that would be 48 people, got on Facebook Live, looking for money. And if they raised $100,000, then I forget the name. Someone can put it in the into the AutoMax feed. Whatever the name of the company was, or the organization rather, would match it with $300,000. So you're talking about $400,000 was raised yesterday, 24-hour period.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah, it really is. So, pretty amazing. Good morning, Ethan. Good to see you, pal. Ethan's a loyal listener from Massachusetts.
Hey, Ethan.
Hey, if you guys would please, a couple things I do need to get out of the way here. Please share this out. Hit that share button. Share it from AutoMax Recruiting, our Facebook page. Share it from our YouTube channel, also called AutoMax Recruiting. You know you're at the right place when you see a kid yelling into a microphone. That would be cool. Thanks, Dave, for sharing. Appreciate it a lot. So if you'd share that, you can also watch the replay on both AutoMax Recruiting and either our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Also, ladies and gentlemen, and what happens is about 2 weeks after we do this show, then our production team and so forth gets it uploaded to iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher. So this thing goes on forever. And we have international listeners.
Wow.
So you'll be international.
That's great news.
We'll put you on a flight to. We had a gentleman from Australia last week was watching the show. So put you on a plane to Australia and get rid of some dogs. That didn't sound right. Get rid of some dogs. That's not right, Craig. All right. So if you guys would share this stuff out, that'd be freaking awesome. It's going to be it should be an interesting show. We've had comedians on here, advertising agents, social media people, car dealers. This is our first animal rescue director that we've had on, so it should be a pretty interesting show. But let me pay some bills here real quick. So the first company I want to talk about, near and dear to our heart, is a company called AutoMoto HR. The CEO's name is Stephen Warner. AutoMoto HR. AutoMotohr.com. in a world where you have 3% unemployment, it's hard to get. People are looking to better their current employment situation. It's hard to find these people. And car dealers and lots of employers are finding it hard to find good talent. Several years ago, in doing a lot of research, we stumbled across a company called Automotive HR. What it is, basically, is a software program. It's a career-branded website that you can put on your dealership website that will literally handle everything for you. And I mean, I'm talking about everything. You know, if you go to a dealer's website, typically it's on the About Us page, and it'll have some jobs there. You know, tech, lube tech, master tech, salesperson, F&I manager, whatever. And you're advertising these ads, and you're not aligned with or hooked up with any outside third party. Man, I'm going to tell you that's wasted real estate. You might as well just save the aggravation. Ain't nobody coming to your website looking for a job. They're coming to your website, dealers, to look for specials, availability, pricing, service hours, service specials, and so forth. They are not coming to look for a job unless you have a third party like Automotive HR. Yeah, there's a couple other, not a couple, there's several different options you have to pick from. Hierology is a huge company and competitor of Automotive HR. Automotive HR takes it several steps further. In no order of importance. You want to put, depending on part of the country that you're in, you want to use 100 different languages and post your ad other than English? Done. Not a problem. The SEO, the ads are already written, literally, for every department, every single position. All you got to do is push a button, bang, it's live to 100 job boards. It's incredible. It has its own ATS. That stands for Applicant Tracking System. The days of you getting a resume, making a file in your Outlook, those days are gone. This thing is just on the money. You got one place to go, unlimited users. Electronic onboarding, and I want to just talk about that for a minute. This thing does a million different things, but the electronic onboarding, in our opinion, what we found is the ridiculous amount of turnover in the automobile industry. In our opinion, and what we've seen, takes place typically from poor or non-existent onboarding that new hire. So someone starts. The first few hours are critical, the first day, the first few days, because there's going to be one question when that new hire goes home that night and runs into his or her significant other. The very first question out of their mouth is going to be about their new job was, well, how'd your first day go? There's only two ways to answer that question. It sucked. I think I'll stay for a while, grab a few paychecks, but let's keep looking. Or, oh, this place was amazing. It was outstanding. We want to have the second experience. And Automotive HR will do that. So it's automotohr.com, or better yet, because we're partnered and affiliated with these wonderful people, just give our office a call, 800-878-5090. That's 800-878-5090. Speak to Joe, Ernie, whomever. Mention the Recruiter Podcast, and you'll save a couple bucks. Now, there's not a whole bunch of markup here. It's very inexpensive. I mean, dirt cheap, like dirt cheap. And what you get is amazing. You really got to try it. If you're into DIY, do-it-yourself recruiting and don't want to use an outside third-party vendor such as AutoMax or whomever, this is a perfect fix for you. So give those people a shot. The other people I want to talk about today, and I should have tagged, I think I am going to tag you guys later on this. I think you guys are together today, is my friend Troy Spring from Dealer World. Dealer World's an ad agency. They like to call themselves a performance agency. They are top-notch, just made the Inc. 5000, one of the fastest-growing companies in the country. They just expanded and are expanding. When I met Troy, Troy gave me some really uncalled for but really awesome accolades the other day on Facebook on a post on I don't know. Well, you guys can look it up, but said all kinds of nice things about me. But I think it was on a post from Mark Tewart. But Troy's a true friend, and Troy started with Zip. Like, I don't know, we've known each other maybe 10 years. And what he's done, I'm so proud of him and his team. His team is ridiculous. They are a full-service ad agency. They do a ridiculous job. It's sick. They get in leads, but the quality of leads, the quality of their services is unbelievable. See, here's the thing. Troy was a very successful general manager, very successful car guy, if you would, quote, end quote, for those of you that are listening, not watching. So not only do you get the expertise of a professional ad agency, but you also get people that know what the heck is going on in the car business. So even something that maybe that they are not getting paid on and they need some help, they're going to help you. And as a car dealer, I think that's all that we can expect out of a vendor is not, if I'm a dealer and I'm dealing with vendors, man, it's like I give you money, you give me a service or a product. I need more than that. I want to partner with my vendors. And if you don't feel comfortable partnering with your vendor, you got the wrong vendor, dude. So look up Dealer World, my buddy Troy Spring, Hunter Swift. The brains of the whole operation is Troy's wife, Brittany. Without her, that whole place is screwed. I'm only kidding, but Brittany's really awesome too. But go to mydealerworld.com, mydealerworld.com. I think if you mention AutoMax, it won't save you any money, but I get paid, so that'd be cool. Oh, crap, I forgot. Ryan, what did I say I forgot to do? I forgot to start that thing, so we're... time-wise, we're going to be a little bit off here, but that's okay. Thank you to the friends of the program. We got a couple more we're going to mention later. Really appreciate you guys, the thousands of dollars that you pay us to do this podcast, because of the tens of thousands of dollars that my production crew here demands us pay for this space. And today, I don't know if you can see her, but I got my sweet dog, Dixie. She's laying next to me on my blanket. On my blanket. That would be her blanket. God forbid I lay on her blanket. So she's all relaxed, and her and Ryan are good buddies, and we'll talk more about that as the show goes along. But Dixie's all relaxed on the floor here next to me. So this is her first podcast, so she's a little shy. So, Ryan, we have a problem. You're the director of Beacon Animal Rescue. All right, so, dude, go ahead and solve this for us. What are we going to do? We got a major problem in this country. How do we fix it? How do you perceive the issue, the problem? What, from a real grassroots level? Because something that I find interesting, and I had no clue that it worked this way. There's you. You're the only paid employee of Beacon, right? Is it?
Yeah, we are a mostly volunteer-run organization.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the volunteers, again, in doing research, because when I knew that you were going to be on a program, what did we do that? A couple of weeks ago, we scheduled this, I think.
Yeah.
So I started looking into stuff, and man, I'll tell you what, your people, those volunteers, and I'm assuming they're all volunteers, and there's a lot of women involved there, but there's Marie maybe, or Maria is one, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they do an amazing job social, in my opinion. The pictures and the posts and so forth, they do a great job, but it's all volunteers, and there's got to be a crap load of them, man. And we'll get more into that as we go along, because some of the trips that you take, it's like last minute, like, hey, I can't walk Dixie today, I got to go to Tennessee or some crazy place. So not that anyone in Tennessee is crazy. Well, actually, I did know a girl in Tennessee that was a little crazy, but that's another podcast.
So yeah, you've touched upon a lot of things there. To address the epidemic, as we call it, it's the problem with any major problem facing the planet, or even to make it smaller, facing America, is that it really is the culmination of a ton of little problems that that kind of build into this one giant problem that we call, animal rescue. And the thing that makes it the most difficult to solve is that most of the problems arise from individuals and the way they view the lives of cats and dogs. In a way, it's really a cultural problem more than anything. There's logistics involved and resources and all of that, but a lot of the real issues get caused just because of how people are raised and what they think about animals that they live with. In the North, us Yankees up here, it's a little bit different the way that we view animals. In a lot of places, having an outside animal like a dog or a cat isn't as accepted as it used to be. I remember growing up and, I had family members and everybody knew people. The dog lived outside in the dog house.
Right.
Things like that. And
right.
For a while, it's just kind of generally accepted that was normal.
Right.
But there was a shift, and I wasn't as involved in rescue to really see exactly what caused it or when it happened.
I see a dog in a doghouse now, not to interrupt you. Well,
Yeah.
I am interrupt you. And it's abuse.
Right.
I look
right.
at it as abuse. And it's like you build a real nice doghouse and you got the dog out there, but it looks abusive to me.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Am I here? So producer Dave and I had a conversation prior to you getting there. He has a rescue.
Oh, great.
And
great.
yeah. And he asked if Dixie was from the South. I said, yeah. And so is his. And I don't know, how do I say this? Does it seems like most of when you get called out of state, and it happened, you grab your vans and cages and volunteers and back. And a lot, weren't you just in Georgia like a week or two ago or maybe a month ago?
Virginia.
Virginia?
Yeah, just the other day.
But you guys make trips south
yeah.
often, don't
Regularly.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What, is there any way you can, is there a why to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a why. And like everything we'll be talking about today, there's a ton of different issues that are all going on at once. One of the major issues is that in rural areas, and this even relates to what people consider the North, is in rural areas, the way that dogs are viewed, or cats for that matter, it's just different. It's this idea that a dog's best life is lived outside, a cat's best life is lived outside.
Right.
Spaying and neutering aren't something that are seen as common practice, and oftentimes there aren't the resources to spay and neuter all the animals.
Right.
Getting to the vet can be a hassle in rural areas. The prices for spaying and neutering,
Right.
especially where there aren't a lot of rescue groups, the price is substantial.
Right.
Especially for, let's say, a farmer or somebody who's, just trying to make ends meet.
Right.
And getting their dog fixed. It doesn't necessarily make sense. There's no cultural precedent for it. It's
Right.
Why?
So
why?
you're saying Southerners are stupid and less caring and
No, not at all.
Oh no, that's not what you're saying at all.
I'm saying it's kind of like, it seems to me to be a rural cultural phenomenon where animals are left to run free, and because they're not fixed, it's like those two things together really create this
multiply that problem.
It's like the perfect storm.
Right.
And oftentimes the result of one or two pregnancies, which let's say somebody has one dog, and that dog is a male, and it goes and impregnates everybody in the neighborhood,
whole neighborhood, right.
But they're in a rural area, so maybe they don't even know.
Right.
Maybe the people with the female dogs don't even know who did it.
Right.
And in that instance, the person with the male dog doesn't even, the consequences aren't there.
Right.
Just, whatever. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I'm not going to go neuter.
my dumb dog.
Yeah, I'm not going to go neuter my dog because oftentimes there's a masculine thing kind of associated with it. And
really, you think
then
so?
There's the money. Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah, that's actually a really common occurrence. It's men looking at not fixing their male dogs for They think they're emasculating them or something.
No
I mean,
shit.
that's fairly common.
Oh,
But that's just the instance of somebody having a male dog they don't fix. But on the other side of it, let's say they have a female dog, and over the course of that dog's lifetime, the dog gets pregnant a few times, and it's like a little blip in their day-to-day routine where it's, I have to find a home for all these dogs, or just drop them off at the shelter, or this is my favorite one, just throw them out somewhere,
right.
and just dump them is the term that we use. Just dump them somewhere,
Right.
And
That happens a lot.
oh, these stories are just.
I can't watch. What's it called? Dodo? Is that how you pronounce that?
Is it like a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those.
I mean, I get sucked into watching those things, and some are. I mean, they all end well. I think. Yeah, I think they all pretty much end well, but it's always some dog getting dumped off, like you just said, in the middle of nowhere, fend for themselves, starving. Like shit, I don't care. It's like cats in a bag, throw them in a river type of thing, man. It
is the exception that those stories end well.
Yeah.
It is not the rule by any means. I mean, it's so common that our volunteers will take trips down to pick up dogs in different areas, and it's been on multiple occasions that we've found stray dogs while doing that.
No shit.
And there's stories we get of volunteers who have lived all around the country, and myself did some traveling before I really got into animal rescue, where wild dogs is commonplace, or stray dogs. There's even a part of the United States right now that's kind of gaining the term the stray belt. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and it just kind of goes across. But it's remarkable to think, or maybe remarkable is not even the right word. It's crazy to think that in today's day and age we still have roaming packs of stray animals.
It's crazy.
But they're out there all over the United States, and that's just one area in which we'll end up taking dogs in from.
Right.
In fact, most of the time, dogs we're getting are just dogs who are born of litters that are abandoned or dumped, or people who just basically dump their dog who maybe is getting too old or isn't doing the job they want for him, whether it's hunting or whatever it may be. And they go to these overcrowded shelters where they're going to get euthanized if somebody doesn't come and pick them up, and typically nobody picks them up.
Right, and you get, I think, sometimes I get this mixed up, but I think, were you guys involved, I don't know, in the last 6 months or so in a hoarder situation too? Did you go rescue some dogs at a...
So I do want to give a shout out to our partner Maria with Two Hands Saving Four Paws.
Oh yeah, that's who I was talking about earlier.
We have a few different partners who will pull the dogs immediately from the shelters down there. I mean, we're not yet at the place where we have remote locations or anything like that. So we depend heavily on our partners to get these dogs sometimes minutes before they're going to be euthanized. Wow. And the hardest part about it, and even thinking about it, you get kind of a little choked up, is that most of the dogs, and by most I mean 99.999% of the dogs that come up behaviorally are fine. There's no issue. It's not like we're talking aggression. It's not like we're talking are peeing all over the house. I mean, and not saying that those things don't have solutions to them too, and we should just consider those dogs, irredeemable. But most of the dogs that are put to sleep, that are on the table right this second, right now, I think it's something like 5,000 dogs a day in the United States, or more than that, are being euthanized for no other reason than space.
Right.
It's just a space issue.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I'm going to get very graphic here and very gross, and maybe this is not the norm. But I read an article, I don't know, a year ago or so online somewhere, and I think it was a reputable online news service that talked about a lot of these shelters. I mean, it's not a matter of like if your pet gets old and you euthanize and it's time to quote unquote put them down.
Right.
It's a shot, and it's a very calming, nice atmosphere. They're putting them in trash bins or in big burners and cremating these dogs. Basically, they're killing them alive. That happens in some situation at kill shelters, does it not? Just to save money?
There aren't any. There's nothing I know of verifiable,
Right.
but I've heard thousands of anecdotal stories of things that, what we call animal control has done in the past, just recently, even here in New Jersey, let alone the rest of the country. Yeah. And I have enough experience with shelters around the country, especially in these rural areas where the way that they view animals it's not a big leap to see how they think about them to how they may treat them, and oftentimes in despicable ways. But like I said, there's nobody in particular I could pick on, but these stories you hear them all the time.
I'm just putting a Beacon Animal Rescue in here in this live stream on the Facebook channel. Car dealers really, and those automotive people that are watching right now and they'll watch later on the replay. If you're a dog lover, cat lover, that's all you guys handle, right? Dogs and cats.
Dogs and cats. Yeah.
We're not into tigers and exotic.
Although people try,
right?
I mean, hey, can you take a ferret? And
really?
Like, we can't take a ferret.
No, that'd be a problem.
Oh well, and then you get into. There's a whole nother world too. Right, I mean, this rabbit hole is deep.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
So, car dealers, car people, I don't know, for some reason, and you and I have had this conversation at my home. Car dealers, for some reason, really are into dogs, and they're really into adoption events at the dealership.
Oh yeah.
Now, obviously, it's cause marketing, and it brings people into their showroom.
It's kind of a win-win, mutually beneficial.
Every time. Every time. So I really encourage my car dealer friends to, hey, if you're not local to South Jersey, where Beacon is, and I just put Beacon Animal Rescue, I just put it in the stream, contact these people, contact Ryan Parker, and set up an event at your dealership. Seriously, these people are awesome. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's the camera, but this is going to sound crazy, but every single picture I see on Beacon Animal Rescue's Facebook page, they're all freaking adorable. Like every one of these dogs and cat, and I'm not a big cat person. We can talk about that a little bit, but on why had to do with some childhood drama. But I mean, like all your animals are cute. Now, maybe they're all cute. So I don't know, but
well, I'm definitely biased because I am particularly fond of every animal that comes in our door. That's for sure.
You can tell
because like I said, they're all wonderful, and some of my background is dealing with behavioral issues with dogs in particular, and I have delved into the cat world a little bit with working with certain behavioral issues. And usually, and this is also the majority of the time when it comes to the behavioral issues that we have with these animals, the things that would make them not so cute or adorable are often reversible, at least to a certain extent, to a place that it's manageable. It's the rare case where you end up with a behavioral issue that is just so far gone that there aren't really any options left.
Right.
Now, the real problem is the lack of resources that we have.
Right.
So as a nonprofit animal rescue relying solely on donations from, people who support us and are, looking to try and help save lives, we're doing everything we can just to save the animals, never mind even rehabilitating them. I mean, that's a whole nother mountain to climb, because one, the animal rescue world, whether it's training or saving these dogs, is kind of the Wild West in a lot of ways. There aren't a lot of there isn't a lot of oversight. It's building. We're getting more of it in terms of dog training. So it's like anybody out there, and this isn't a recommendation, but anybody out there can pick up a title or say today,
Right.
I'm a dog trainer.
Right.
Watch a few YouTube videos or not.
Right.
And just go out
You
there.
actually are. I mean, you're certified and so forth.
Oh yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of we're making strides in that direction. Certifications like the CPDT, associations like the APDT, which is Association of Professional Dog Trainers. There's science-based dog training, and it is definitely growing.
Yeah, and it's changed. If you remember back, we've known each other like 7 years now.
Yeah.
But the first trainer, when I got Dixie, we'll get into that whole story. But when I got Dixie, I just had hip surgery. I had a hip replacement, so I had to put her with a quote unquote dog trainer for. I actually lived with this guy for a month, and he trained all the police dogs and so forth, and pretty aggressive training. Is aggressive the right word to use?
We call it well, the
Pretty
name
mean.
they use often is balanced training, which is a little bit of it's a little misleading.
Yeah, it was fear-based. It was pretty much dominant, be domineering over your dog like 100%.
Right.
Now your training is, this is just a layperson talk, is more reward-based training. It's like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Reward good behavior. Consequently, the dog will behave in that way more often to Pavlov's dog to get the reward.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, which seemed to work better with her because she was a total train wreck when I first got her, as you'll recall. But man, there's so many freaking issues. So I don't know percentage-wise. I'm sure there's stats on this, but all right. So dogs find themselves without a home or cats for a number of different reasons. You got an elderly person can no longer physically take care of the animal,
Right.
so drops it off at the shelter.
I can go down the list for you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Go.
oftentimes it's a breakup. That's really common.
Yeah,
I'll
bet. I didn't even think of that one.
And my recommendation is it's like having the conversation about a prenup before you get married.
Yeah.
Have the conversation.
Right. Who gets the dog?
Who keeps the dog? Just have that conversation at some
no
point.
shit. I didn't
if
think
you guys
about
get
that.
a dog together, at some point just say,
Right.
if anything happens,
Yeah.
it's not easy, but it's not hard.
Right.
And
Right.
it takes a few moments.
Right.
So that's really common.
Yeah.
Another one is oftentimes people moving. They move into a new place, and you hear this statement in animal rescue all the time: I would be homeless with my pet. And anybody who says it, for the most part, I'd say I believe them.
Yeah.
I'm sure if
Right.
something happened to you, Dixie
Yeah.
would be right there with you.
Yeah.
But that's not the same for everybody, and I can't necessarily blame anybody for it either.
Right. Yeah.
One of the problems there is that a lot of landlords having a pet in the house decreases the property value.
Right.
It can cause a ton of damage to the house, especially with untrained dogs.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of landlords have been burned before too.
Yep.
With cats who maybe pee on something, or
Right,
dogs
yeah.
who tear up carpets.
Right. How many animals you got? One, and there's like 9.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the landlords will try to do things to try and be fair, like under 50 pounds. And,
Right.
and people try to,
Right.
Right. game that system too.
Sure, you
And
bet.
now with emotional support and with what we call service dogs in the industry, hence the
Yeah.
air quotes for anybody
Yeah.
who's just listening.
Yeah.
That's a big issue
Yeah.
too. but-
Anybody can be a service dog now. I saw something the other day online where in New York City on the subway to have your dog in the subway, it's got to be in a bag. Did you happen to see any of this?
I think we posted that.
Oh, did you post that
on our page?
Yeah. I mean, it's like gigantic, like dogs. Dixie's 90 pounds.
I love that. I loved that.
Like in a garbage bag, but like not in a bag. Like they meant like so that really pushing the law.
That was priceless.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good
So some people do. With what happened with Dixie when she had the splenectomy and the mass on her spleen, and we had the emergency surgery and so forth, it was a boatload of dough. I mean, it was a lot of money.
Yep.
And that day, I mean, you know how Dixie acts. I mean, a walk is her like a big thing in her life. Like, oh, I'm going for a walk, yay! And so I think it was a Thursday, I'd take her to the end of the road. She'd pull me back home from at the end of the cul-de-sac there. And then Friday she did the same thing. So I called Newkirk, my vet, and said, there's something wrong with Dixie. And I told them, and they said, bring her in tomorrow, meaning Saturday. And Dr. Newkirk was there. And it was like, I mean, the girls were so she goes to get it examined, and I'm like in another world. I'm not like hearing what they're saying,
right.
Like in that state. And it's like the girls out front are crying, and it's like, we're so sorry. I said, what are you talking about? And he had explained to me, her spleen's there's a huge mass on her spleen. We think it probably is bleeding. It's not good. Talking about emergency surgery. I said, when? He said, like, right now. I've already called. I said, okay. How far is the place from here? Well, depending on traffic, an hour and a half or whatever. I made it in like 30 minutes. But I mean, it was like 100 miles an hour. Because it didn't hit me until I'm like halfway up there that, oh, shit, my dog could die. And take her in there. They examine her. And the first doctor that came in there was talking about euthanize, like they went right to euthanizing her. I said, whoa, we're not killing my dog today. We're going to fix my dog today. Well, Mr. Locker, there's, very little chance. How much chance? 10%. 10% chance that she'll make it through the surgery, 10% chance that she'll be okay. What are we talking about? Well, it doesn't really matter, Craig. It just, if there's a 10% chance, let's go. And then they came back out to me and said, before we do that and you spend all this money, let's look at her, I think it was her liver or her kidneys, one of the two. Let's see if the blood got into there. Because if it got into there, then there's no chance. I said, okay, do that. And so in the meantime, I go outside and I called Joanna, who my friend and assistant, and Jody, who's our company AutoMax's controller and a friend of mine. And it's like, what should I do? And it's like, pray about it and it'll come to you. And it did. So I go back in and it was like, I said, okay, I think it was her liver. All right, so what's up? Well, it's clean. It's not in there. Do it. Are you sure, Craig? It's going to cost, and it was a lot of money. I said, yeah, do it. Fix my dog. And so they did, and she was a train wreck, man. I spent a lot of time up there with her. She was at the hospital, I think, 4 days. And then, so I think I went in and I got her on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, probably a Wednesday, and her biopsy was supposed to be back that Friday. So I get a call from the vet, from the surgeon that did the surgery. I pick up the phone. I said, hello. There's a woman crying on the other end of the phone. I said, who is this? And she said her name. And she said, Craig, you're right. It's like, it's all benign. It's like, she's fine. I've already got a bucket list to make up for her. Like they said, because even if she made it through the surgery, it was going to be like, Craig, she could live 30 days, she could live 60 days, but that's it, man. So I got a bucket list of things I'm going to do. I'm going to rent out PetSmart for a day, have a bunch of unopened food and toys and let her have at it, and I had all these, literal bucket lists of things for her to do before she passed. and she was so. She said, in my 11 years as a vet, I've never seen this. It was just a total miracle. My point is this: while I was there to take this, and my point is money. While I'm there, young guy there with his girlfriend and a boxer, older dog, and boxers get old at what, 9, 10, I mean, pretty early. And this dog was in bad shape. And the guy's crying, like uncontrollably. And it was his girlfriend was at the desk. And I had just made the decision to do, no, this was the day after the surgery. So Dixie had made it through the surgery. So I said, look, it's none of my business. And if you tell me to F off, that's cool. I totally get it. But obviously there's something terribly wrong with your dog. And so, well, it's my boyfriend's dog. I'm this and that, and we got to put her down. I said, what's wrong? And it's like 90% of what's wrong with dogs, cancer. I mean, it's like,
Yep.
I mean, it's like, it seems like that's all. They get hit by a car or they die of cancer. It's like, it's crazy. But at any rate, or they're put down because they can't walk or whatever. But, and I'm not, this is not self-promoting. It was just the mood I was in and just the whole experience. It was like, I said, look, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to have to put her down. We can't afford to do anything else. I said, well, how much is it going to cost? Well, more money than we have. I said, well, look at, I'm in a position, I've been blessed and I'm in a position I could help you out a little bit. Is that something that, well, sir, thank you. That's so blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But so she went over and talked to her boyfriend, and her boyfriend, he starts crying. He comes over, he hugs me, couldn't talk. But he said, no, it's like, but thank you. And went and sat down, so I left. But wouldn't you agree that both sides of this issue, man, all sides of this issue come down to money, right? It's like we're fortunate enough as a company, we have 6 nonprofits or organizations that we contribute to, Beacon Animal Rescue being one of them, where we send money every month. I'm in a position or been fortunate enough throughout my life to be able to accumulate enough money to where if something happens, this, I kid, neuter, this is the most expensive rescue dog. I mean, she's had her tail amputated. She just had 5 tumors taken out. I mean, it's everything's, it's like, okay.
I've seen it all. Yeah.
Thousands. It's like every time. So people can't afford that. A lot of people, no, I'm not going to say most. Probably most. Can't afford to do, they definitely can't afford to do what I've done with her. I mean, I'm into this dog over $20,000, at least. So other than that, bang, get dropped off at a kill shelter or a rescue, and it's like, I can't afford it, and here's my sick dog.
Or opt for euthanasia.
Right, or opt to have the dog put down. So you got that. You got people that go and buy a pet store dog, a puppy mill dog, which is, I don't know what, as a government, we can regulate so many things. Is there some reason that puppy mills can't be shut down? I mean, shit, this is ridiculous, man. If you really, folks, go on YouTube and just look at these things. They're despicable. They're horrible. They are absolutely brutal. And I can tell you, years and years and years ago, I went to an event. I lived up in Ohio, and they had an event. I lived near the polo fields in Sugar Falls. And they had an event where the mother, the father, and the new litter. When can a puppy leave their mother? What is it? 8, 10 weeks? Is that kind of
about 8 weeks?
Right. So you had litters. You had the mother, the father, and the litter there, and they're 8, 10, 12 weeks old or whatever. And I bought a Rottweiler there and bought the runt, turned into a monster. This dog was like one of the biggest Rottweilers you ever seen. It was 150 pounds of blue twisted steel. This dog was amazing. And this dog was a puny little runt. It was literally the runt of the litter. And I paid a fortune for this dog. it was a real German Rottweiler, German commands, blah, blah, blah. But there I am, part of the problem. Now, we didn't, I took care of the dog, but I guess, people buy a dog like that, and it's adorable, and it's a puppy, and this dog, when it got big enough, ate my freaking couch. I mean, I literally came home one day, and what was left were the springs and the bolts. This dog had literally eaten the couch. So someone in a different situation is going to take that dog and drop it off, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the problem, and that was I don't know. That's not really a puppy mill dog. I guess those are quote unquote legit breeders. And I got nothing. I mean, not to beat up dog breeders. A good friend of mine breeds Yorkies, but it's his love. He loves the breed. He loves the dog. He's amazing with them. But he breeds these Yorkies and sells them for big money.
You bring up a couple of great topics, and I want to address the first one with the money, but I definitely want to touch upon breeding practices. The first one is in regards to money. You couldn't be more spot on. If it's not the number one problem facing animal rescue, it's definitely the second one, and I would maybe consider the first one being, people just not having knowledge and understanding of the consequences of their behavior in regards to these animals.
Oh, I'm sure that's a big one.
It's huge, and
you don't get it.
Well, part of that is it's not in the curriculum anywhere.
Yeah.
A dog and a cat. I mean, it's just kind of everybody's expected to just kind of get it. And the funny thing that comes from that is you often see it as not everybody, but a typical sentiment is that somebody who's lived with dogs or cats all of their lives has some spectacular insight. What they don't realize is that so many people have lived with dogs and cats all their lives. I mean, we use a metaphor. It's like I've lived with a toilet all my life. I'm not a plumber. You know what I mean? I have no idea how my TV works. Like I couldn't even start.
Right. Right.
So part of it is that education, and I'm not exactly sure what that means.
Right. You're a kid. You had a dog when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And it was a friend, but you barely remember it. My first one was a boxer named Vicky. It was, I was born, they get the dog, it was a puppy, 10 or 11 years old, it dies. But so I'm a pet owner, but then when you're a real pet, when you're an adult and you're a pet owner, that's a whole different deal. Because then it all hits you. Oh, shit, I got to take care of this dog. I got to train this dog so it doesn't pee in my house and eat my furniture and my shoes. I got to feed the dog, and then I got vet bills, right?
Yeah, and most of those little problems that you face or challenges, you're trying to solve with very little actual knowledge.
Right.
It's mostly experiential. And here's one of, and I'll talk about dogs specifically. One of the best things about dogs is that they are very adaptable. They adapt to situations like no other animal. One of the worst things about dogs is that for humans, they adapt to situations so easily. They're very adaptable. And the reason I say it's the worst is because oftentimes what we'll do as owners is assume that whatever it is we did was in some way the reason for this great behavior I'm getting from my dog. And
yeah,
it's like, a common thing people use to potty train their dogs is maybe they'll at least until recently is roll up a newspaper,
right?
Or maybe push their dog's face in it or something like
that.
Yeah,
I used to do that,
and it's so. I think everybody has that experience of at least their parents doing it or them repeating it,
right?
And here's the thing: dogs learn maybe to not potty in the house because of that. They may actually learn not to potty in the house, or just because they're older, or maybe they're like, well, that scares the heck out of me. I'm just going to go to the bathroom outside. And so we're rewarded in a sense as an owner and say see, I did it. I know what I'm doing. I'm a whisperer is the term we often hear.
Right.
But the truth is just dogs are so adaptable.
Right.
And there are at least a handful of techniques that are way more effective, way more humane, and actually build a stronger relationship between you and a dog. And in a lot of ways, this is parallel with working with cats as well.
Really?
And some of the problems we see with cats, though, is that because they're so independent, there's even less of a desire to really understand how behavior works.
Gotcha.
And what they're doing. And often people look at animals as across the board kind of similar, where it's like in a lot of ways, dogs and cats are the opposite of each other. Just for instance, in terms of body language, which is a major way animals will communicate with not only us, but others of their kind and other animals.
You're degreed in that too, aren't you?
Well, I have a certificate from a school, and I continuously go to seminars, and it's just definitely it's more than a job for me. It's definitely a passion, just understanding how the
there's
brain
definitely
works.
body language techniques or things that we can pick up on in
110%.
dogs and cats.
In fact, it's foundational to really understanding your animals, because I still talk to my animal or any animal I meet with my mouth, and I'm doing so with some intention, because I am having I can have some effect with how I use my voice in terms of the pitch, the speed, the tone. But
I read something, and you can verify this maybe, but perhaps. I read something that when you're looking at your dog in the face, and she'll stare at me, especially if her. If she wants food, she'll just stare with those big hazel eyes. She'll just stare at you.
And it works.
Oh, yeah,
I've seen it.
With me, 100. Yeah. It's like 100%. No. Here. Yeah, she owns me. So, but I read something like, I forget which eyebrow it is now. Right, if you're talking to your dog and you're looking them in the eyes, you raise your right eyebrow. They know that they can trust you. They have a feeling of calm. It shows that you love them. It went on and on and on, and it was one of the eyebrows. And if you lift it or something while you're talking to them, so I'm going to play with her, and I'm going to, she's kind of aloof anyway. Just her breed, a Centhound, she's kind of aloof.
So to touch on that, I'd be very concerned about the authenticity of that article.
Right.
Just because I haven't come across anything that's really specific like that.
But if you stare at a dog, some dogs, especially kids, if you stare in their face, that brings up a certain amount of fear and aggression into them or out of them, does it not?
It can.
Yeah.
And so it's all about context when it comes to dog behavior. It's knowing in what context, because like you said, you and her will stare lovingly into each other's eyes, and I bet stress is the last thing. There might even be a cortisol response. I mean, a serotonin response that's going on there between you guys. Whereas a strange dog, almost like a strange person down the street,
if you stare at them,
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like, what's up, dude?
Yeah, and I think we all kind of have that experience, and dogs having that experience, I'm sure it's very similar to ours when they're under direct attention from somebody. It requires your attention. And as a dog, it's like if somebody's paying attention to me, I'm not necessarily in my comfort zone.
Cats are different, though.
They can be.
I mean, it's like my son Joe has a cat. Shout out to Franklin. This cat actually, when you call it, it comes like a dog. I mean, it's but it's also cat-like too. It's like it'll just go about its business, and you don't see it it'll go hide. You know how they do. And, you litter box in a little corner, and then they're off. Like you said, they're very independent, way more so than dogs, right? Or
typically,
typically.
But so everything we say, there are some caveats, and there's a lot of exceptions. And cat behavior, it evolved for a totally different purpose than dog behavior. Dogs typically have evolved to being as social as possible because there's a lot of strength in numbers when it comes to dogs, whereas cats, being predatory animals, oftentimes working alone, there is some evolutionary benefits to hunting alone, to being alone. And there's also different things with territory and stuff. You know, you'll see it in larger cats where they'll basically own a circle, mountain lions, and on say the West Coast, they'll kind of take over. You know, maybe 100-mile radius or something like that. That number is probably completely wrong, but the idea is there. And then other cats just kind of stay on the outskirts of that and keep their own little territory. In a lot of ways, domestic cats have a similar way of going about the world, and it's why you don't see cats too often comfortable outside of their zone. They may take longer. It's almost like they use pheromones to the equivalent I like to use is it's like they graffiti their territory with their scents, and almost like gangs do blocks and things like that. Not to give them the negative connotation, because I have a ton of friends who are cats. But they have more dependence on territory than dogs typically do.
Really?
Not to say that dogs don't have similar mechanisms.
What's the evolution of domesticated cats? We have tigers. I mean, are they related to tigers?
There is a debate that still rages to this day that cats aren't fully domesticated, that they aren't actually domesticated, that in a sense when people make jokes that
they're all feral,
cats own us, there's possibly some truth to it that they domesticated us in a certain sense. So,
interesting.
So there's a lot of science there that I'm not fully I don't have that down to memory because I have focused on dog training much more than I have cat behavior. And part of it is not necessarily a preference, but because in terms of marketability, I have more opportunities, working with dogs than cats. I mean, there's like one cat trainer in the world, and anybody who watches TV probably knows of him, the gentleman Jackson Galaxy. I mean, but like, look in the phone book, Google it. Like who
Well, how do you train a cat anyway?
But there is, and I'm glad you actually bring that up because I love training and psychology, and the science of animal training actually stems from behavioral psychology, and that the techniques that we use for training animals, or we used to use back in like the 60s on humans as well, they're effective across the board. And you're seeing nowadays more and more zoos using these same training techniques that we're using on dogs, obviously fitted to use on gorillas or elephants, are the same techniques you might see at like a theme park with dolphins and things like that. Not to say I support capturing the dolphins and whatnot. But a lot of the training techniques are similar across the board, whether it's a cat or whether it's a dog or a gorilla or a baboon. And there's a few animal trainers kind of on the cutting edge who have found success with animals we didn't know were as capable and intelligent, capable at learning as we once thought they were. Animals like jellyfish and just fish in general, or snails, like really obscure animals you would never think I'm training them. But there's actually have been really effective and remarkable things done with a lot of those animals. And in fact, a common practice, especially in a specific sect of training we call clicker training, one of the
clicker training, because you use a clicker.
You use a clicker, and it's based on the principles of operant conditioning. We'll use chickens as an exercise to teach clicker trainers how to really ramp up their ability to time behaviors accurately, to mark behaviors, because chickens have a really short attention span, and in a lot of ways, they're a lot more primal in a sense than maybe a dog or a cat may be, and it's a way of kind of sharpening your blade there with something that's a little bit more difficult. But you can teach them to do all sorts of things, like follow a pointer and jump over something, and it's just absolutely incredible. But it's very little known, the science that has been developed by animal trainers to do a lot of this stuff.
Right. It's got to be when you have a certain amount of time to be able to actually train a dog, and you see the result. It's got to be awesome. It's got to be awesome to take a train wreck of a dog with left to center. Yeah, left of center behavior, and then see that dog turn around and go the right way.
I see what you did there.
Yes, it's got to be. It has to make you feel great. It's got to be like pretty fulfilling to see that happen. To take a dog that's a mess and gets better. Because Dixie's had a problem with other dogs. We met I met a guy that yesterday when I was walking her, the day before, that knows you, that adopted one of his dogs from you. He's got a black, I don't know what it was, but he had two dogs, and he says, I know Ryan.
Ginger was the dog's name.
Yeah, Ginger.
They changed the dog's name.
Yeah. It was like, shit, it really is a small world, man.
Ginger, I'm glad you brought that up. Those two things about turning a dog around and that gentleman, because Ginger was one of those dogs.
Really?
And it was a team effort working with Ginger, from some of the volunteers I had worked with before and some of the staff members at the facility I was at. And Ginger came in and she was very atypical. She was very shy, very shut down, a very quirky dog, strange, fearful of everything. Some could even guess that she probably spent a substantial amount of time alone, had some feral tendencies. And, you see her now walking with her, her brother and her owners, and it's just, it's remarkable. But that is one of those situations where it gives you hope, because a lot of these dogs and cats have the ability to turn around. And what makes me even happier is not only that they turned around, but that they found somebody willing and patient enough and understanding, caring to do the right thing and help them and support them.
Yeah, some dogs are like people. Some are going to interact with different, some are going to like kids, some aren't. Some are going to like other dogs, be in a home with other dogs, some aren't.
Right.
So on and so forth. And you got to know, as someone placing that animal in that house, what the hell's going on in that house, or you're getting that animal right back.
Yep.
There was like, I think I read on one of your stories that you one dog you got back for like the third time or something, and this dog was so adorable. And it's like, for one, I can't even imagine dropping a dog off at a shelter. It's just totally beyond my comprehension. That dog would have to be a killer dog and want to kill every person it sees, attack me or whatever. And I would go to a whole lot of lengths before it would ever come to that decision even. But I can't even imagine it. And I probably know a little too much about this, although I'm stupid enough to not know all I probably should know. But the costs that are involved in running your place, the money only comes from people like me, people like my audience, giving you money. It's the only thing. I can remember a post, one of your social media posts, and I think might have been from that woman or somebody, one of the volunteers in your organization, about you guys just had a rash of 8 or 10, 12 dogs, and they needed everything. And when and some of the stuff was listed, and when I looked at it, it's like, shit, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. It's like all the things needed, and they all need some sort of medical care, and you
All of them.
Neuter and spay.
Yes.
All those dogs are spayed before they're put in a home, right?
Yeah. So I'm glad you bring that up. There is a host of medical. I mean, anybody who owns an animal knows that they need regular vet visits. They need preventatives. They need all of the vaccinations and everything. And so we make sure every dog that we bring up, no matter what stage of medical care they're at, that we bring them up to par. They get everything up to date. We fix them all because that is a huge factor in making sure that the population doesn't continue to increase. And just to take a second to everybody out there listening, please just spay and neuter your pets. If you're not a professional dog breeder who's looking to better the breed, just spay and neuter. There are groups out there.
Really?
Save up for a couple of weeks. I know it's not the cheapest thing to do. For
but
some
what's it
people.
cost? A couple $100 or what?
Some dogs can cost, depending on where you're at as well. It changes by geography, basically.
Does it?
But anywhere, depending on whether it's a cat or a dog, the number can be from 100 to 300. And there are groups around and certain vets who drop that cost significantly if you do some research, and if it means having to drive an hour away to do it.
So what?
Check it out, and you can always reach out to us, and we can give you a list of some of the most updated areas where you may be able to find some cheaper costs in regards to that.
Are you allowed to do that for pay? Can someone bring their dog to you and pay you to do that, or no?
No.
Yeah,
because we work with different veterinarians, so we don't have any veterinarians on staff.
Right, that's
like
right.
That.
Yeah. What a mess, man.
So to get back to the medical thing, I mean, we do have an adoption fee for adopting the dog, and that just barely covers the food, the regular care,
how much is
all
that
of the
typically,
shots.
if you don't mind?
So our adoption fee for dogs under a year is $275, and for dogs a year or older is $225. And we do discount older dogs, but that includes the spay, the neuter, the microchip, vaccinations. Everything is up to date before they head on out.
Come on, my audience is the Recruiter Podcast audience. Reach in your pocket and send them some money. You got $200-300. Send it. Seriously, send them more money. Actually,
thank you, Craig.
Send Beacon Animal Rescue. And no shit, I'm being. This is straight up. Anybody on the podcast, anybody that sees this, give it to your owner, give it to your GM. Someone make a decision at the dealership. If they're within an hour and a half or so of South Jersey, you can reach out to me or friend Ryan on Facebook or Beacon Animal Rescue, and let's get an event scheduled at your place. But if nothing else, I know these people. These people are the real deal. It is mind-blowing to me. Reach in your pocket and send a few bucks. I mean, it's either that or these dogs ultimately,
and cats.
I'm sorry. These animals are going to end up being euthanized. Not from Beacon, but ultimately something has to be done. I mean, they can't, although you probably you hang on to some dogs or some animals for quite a while, I would assume. So
it does happen occasionally.
Yeah.
In every area we start to talk about, there is like 20 different roads we could go down and talk about because there's issues surrounding all of it. But just to talk about dogs who may come in or cats who may come in and spend a while there, it's, we have to be frugal in how we use our resources. And oftentimes what we're doing is seeing making sure we can save as many lives as possible using the donations that we do get from our supporters. So
where do most of the donations come from? Just regular people, or more companies and organizations send you money?
So it's mostly regular people, but we do we get the medical costs covered by a lot of the adoption fees. So oftentimes we're just, breaking even.
That's
and every
right.
dog we bring in, we break even or close to break even.
Right.
And, but we're trying to make an even larger push now to reach out to not just local businesses, but businesses on a larger scale.
Right.
Hopefully that they can see what we're trying to do.
Right.
For instance, last year the total animal lives saved, dogs and cats, we were just a little over 300.
Oh, no kidding. That's great.
Just this year, we are at over 315 the last time I checked, which was probably just the other day.
Year to date, through September.
Through September.
Yeah. Awesome.
So we're shooting. We're on track right now to do 450. If we can break
Wow.
500, I mean that would be an incredible goal
Awesome.
for us. But a lot of that depends on two things: one, adoptions, but also resources.
Right.
It's just making
right.
that
You
happen.
could do 1,000 if you had the money. You could do 1,000, 2,000, whatever.
Well,
It's
here's the kicker. When it comes to the medical part of everything, we're often limited to, and so many rescues are this way, to only taking in the dogs that need basic medical care. And, you know, I say basic and it sounds like just a little, but spaying, neutering, up to date on the shots, microchipped. But there's so many dogs that, and we're trying to do this more than ever, is bring in these dogs who don't have a chance simply because the medical needs that they have are just too much of an expense for any other rescue or any other adopter to just take in off the bat. And I mean, understandable for some people, they don't want to adopt a dog that needs a $1,000 dental surgery.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's like,
and that's easy. I mean, that's like that.
but if you and I needed a dental surgery, we're not like, I guess I'm going to euthanize myself. You know, it doesn't.
Right.
There's no translation between humans and dogs there, and I'm not saying we're the same or anything like that, but
damn close.
a dental surgery is just dental surgery. You know, it's very minor, but that's enough to be a death sentence for some of these animals.
Right. Well, you know, when she had that partially torn ACL, you know, it's like she got the stem cell injection. You know,
Yeah.
And Newkirk's, he has a underwater treadmill thing. I mean, she, you know, and again,
the top of the line stuff.
Yeah, I'm lucky, you know, so to be able to give her that kind of care. But I'm assuming, you know, some dogs tear their ACL. One or two things happen. That dog's getting taken out into the woods and a bullet put in its head, or
sadly,
right, or dropped off, or you know, abandoned.
I'm glad you bring that up. That's a common injury. I mean, that's so common for dogs running around.
Right.
It's just likely to happen.
Right, and I've been told, either you told me or Newkirk told me, somebody told me, if one side goes, typically the other side's going to go. Now, knock wood, the other side hadn't gone yet, but you know, she has once a week. She has some new issue. Freaking dog. She's unbelievable.
So, you know, another medical issue we often face, and this is, you know, a lot of folks can't relate up here, other than they give their dogs heartworm preventative, and so commonly we'll have rescues down south or shelters that we're working with. They'll bring in a dog, and wonderful dog, behaviorally sound, everything's good, ready for adoption. We'll get them up to date on the medical, but they do a heartworm test, which is, you know, just a blood test, and the dog comes back heartworm positive. Right. And there we're looking oftentimes at 6 months worth of treatment. The dog needs to be in a confined space, not too active, really common in a shelter environment. I mean, they're
stressed.
Yeah, they're stressed.
Constantly.
It's like that is not an ideal place for a dog to recover. And
and
we're not talking thousands of dollars. We're talking hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, and time.
And sometimes it's like a 1 or 2 year old dog or a puppy who's just, they're wonderful. There's no they're innocent. They're friendly. They're well behaved. They look beautiful.
Right. But it's got heartworm. You can't tell. How are you going to tell a 6-month-old puppy not to, you know, hey, you got to slow down here. You have heartworm.
They were literally, you know, bit by a mosquito or something, and now they have this condition. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do at Beacon is like take these animals who, not just the ones who just need the basic medical care, but seeing what we can do to save these animals who have completely treatable conditions,
Right.
but for lack of luck, they don't have any opportunities to deal with them. And,
Right.
it's always a tough decision because it's, do I take this animal in and spend this amount of money, or do I save 5 of this type of animal with this amount of money?
That's right. I mean, you're no different than a dog owner, where you have to make decisions based on financial capabilities, right? Yeah. I mean, as an organization,
and in a lot of
you
ways,
have to. It sucks.
I feel like an owner, and
Well,
I mean it's a regular. It's
right.
These dogs are. They're my dogs, and all of our volunteers feel the same way about all the animals coming in.
They must.
They're in a sense they're ours, and we're doing everything we can to give them the life they deserve.
And you're kind of familiar with this. My youngest son, Kyle's dog Arlo, the big whatever he was, he just passed here recently, and he had, I don't know, 6-7 years ago or so, had heartworm. Have no clue how he got it.
Right.
And this is a big, Arlo was huge. At one time he was 150, 160, gigantic dog. Mastiff, coonhound mix maybe. I mean, he couldn't do anything. No playing, like it's devastating, or that dog dies. And then, once they treated him, and it was a long time, I think, what'd you say, 6 months? It was at least that long. And then he was fine, as it turned out. But here again, every month I go to Newkirk, it's flea and tick and heartworm medicine, and you're looking at, I don't even bother looking anymore, man. It's so much freaking money.
$60-$70.
Yeah. Well, and for big dogs, it's double dose, so it's like.
Well, usually you buy it in 3 or 6 month doses too.
Yes.
So it is. It's not crazy.
Yeah.
But
it adds up, man.
Yeah, it
just
sure
like
does.
just like everything else. How many? One of the things that blows my mind about Beacon Animal Rescue is the volunteers, and I don't know, is there? I mean, they're not all quote unquote full time volunteers. You have full time volunteers, right?
Yeah, we sure do. But
and then you have part timers.
We have over 200 volunteers. Sheesh. I think we're around 225, maybe 230 now.
And if you're looking for them always, I would assume.
Always, because we're constantly looking to increase our ability to save lives. I mean, resources, whether it's human or financial resources, or people who want to partner with us, businesses, and do events and bring attention to what we're doing. We're always looking to continue to expand because, I mentioned those numbers earlier. Like if we hit 500 this year, that's a huge milestone for us.
Right.
But in the big scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket. We're talking about 5,000 dogs euthanized a day. And if my experience is anything to go by, the majority of them are just being euthanized for space.
Wow.
And that's just here in, America. So it's like, at one point we're extremely proud of the work our volunteers have been able to achieve.
Right.
And, the lives that we've saved and our adopters, it's like every time we get an adopted family, we also adopt them as well.
Right,
so that community
you
keeps
can kind
growing.
of tell. You guys have that like little setup studio where you take a picture of the owners and the pet being adopted. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, because the whole process is really important to us, and I mean, it just feels great to see that success.
Right.
But as a leader of the organization, I do have to step back and say, how much more can we do?
Right.
What are we really capable of on a larger scale? Right. I mean, we're definitely making an impact, and it's you can't. I don't want to minimize it at all, but there's so much more that needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, you could make yourself nuts because you have to be able to step back and take a look at it and say, okay, I know the whole world. I mean, there's 200 million strays worldwide. I mean, it could get literally overwhelming. It could keep you up at night. It probably does. You have to be able to focus on, okay, what can we do?
Right.
We're a part of the solution. We're not the solution. We're part of the solution, but you're going to do your part the best you can. I mean, you guys just laid down. I know because you did it yourself. You and volunteers laid down that outside AstroTurf.
Oh yeah.
Here recently, and it's like. I mean, that's a big deal there, I would think. That's a huge deal for you.
Well, we are located in protected land.
Right.
It's all marsh around us, and it offers us a lot of benefits. We love it there in Ocean View, part of Upper Township. And one of the challenges we faced was that our play yards would regularly get muddy.
Right.
Especially with rain, and the drainage isn't the best there.
Right.
So putting that AstroTurf there was, just it was obvious, like it needed to be done, and but that's just really one little piece in a lot of what we're trying to do, and it's we talk a lot about process. At Beacon Animal Rescue, trying to improve our process, trying to create process where there isn't any, and trying to look at the problems we face differently. How can we solve this with a process? What can we put into place that can either address this, prevent it, improve it, or just change the outlook on it altogether. So that came as part of that. It's like, how can we keep our dogs outside playing? How can we keep our volunteers clean? How can we keep the dogs clean? It was just one of those solutions that solves multiple problems all at once.
Right. And I think I'm going to have to check, and I don't, son Joe Lockard, maybe you can answer this question for me. I think, because I saw a link or something for volunteers to like apply to, right? Did I see that somewhere?
We're always trying to recruit more volunteers.
Yeah. I think we can probably, I probably shouldn't say this on air, but I think we can run, it gets a little tricky. Some of these job boards have a lot of weird, stupid rules, but I think we could probably run an ad for you for volunteers. I think we can do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, if we can legally do that with our job boards, I mean, I can do anything I want with our job board, but the other the big ones, Indeed and so forth. Let me check, and if I can run an ad for volunteers for you, we'll get that.
We would
done.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll get that done.
Be a big help.
And guys, audience, again, my car business friends, send money. If you can't hold an event at your dealership, or if you're outside the area. I'd really appreciate if you'd send them a few bucks. These are good people. I know them, and I'm sure most shelters or rescues are great people. This one I just happen to know, and it's near me. So we met. So I was going to say we met, and I can't remember the exact. It was pretty weird, but life's so weird. So the way I got Dixie. My youngest son, Kyle, had a guy living upstairs from him. Had known him for like 2 weeks. And the guy either accidentally overdosed or committed suicide. Died of a drug overdose, regardless. So Dixie was his dog. Dixie had met Arlo, my son's dog, and they played in their backyard and so forth. So they were buds. And then, so when this guy died, and Kyle called me 2 or 3 days before, said, "Dad, there's something wrong up there. I can hear the dog. I can hear Dixie. I don't hear nothing. There's something wrong." I said, have you been smoking pot? What's going on? It's like, there's nothing wrong with this guy. Calls me the next day, "Dad, I'm telling you there's something wrong. If you don't," so I say to him, if you don't hear anything by tomorrow, which was on a Saturday, call the police. Saturday, sure enough, he calls the police. Sure enough, the guy's dead. Mm-hmm. So Kyle had gone up while the cops are there, and whoever else comes when someone dies. Kyle grabbed Dixie, brought her downstairs. The cops came down and got her. Said, you can't just keep the dog. So they took her to Pleasantville, which is a kill shelter.
Right.
And we had to wait 3 days to see if his family was going to do anything about the dog. Well, Kyle reached out to the family and said they didn't want anything to do with the dog. But the shelter didn't want to hear about that. It was like, you got to wait 3 days. So 3 days is up. Kyle calls me. I haven't had a dog in 25 years. The last thing on my mind, my house is like,
Pristine.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, that's one way to
yeah,
put
it's
it.
pretty immaculate. And it's like, people freaked out. It was like, my floors now need redone. There's dog hair all over my house. It's like, I didn't even give it a second thought. It was like, okay. And went out, and I tell you what, man, I walked down that runway of those dogs, and it was like, Kyle, go get her, and I got to get the hell out of here. I'm going to end up with 5 dogs. I said, just get me out. You walk down those rows, man, and you look at those dogs' eyes, and it hit me. It was horrifying to me, and heartbreaking, and it was horrible. And so we get Dixie in the car, and put her in the car. She comes in my house, shits and pisses all over the house for like 10 minutes.
Dixie.
And has never done it since. Not like ever. Just the first hour she was there. So Dixie's asleep. Yeah, we're talking about you, baby. Where's my good girl? So let's see how this happened. So I adopted her. So I brought her home. Then I had the hip surgery. I had my hip replaced. And for the first part of that, she was out at that trainer's place, that guy. Mm. And then I brought her back. And then when I would go out, and then I was taking her while I was traveling, and I was traveling more then. I was dropping her off at All-Star Pet Resort.
Right.
And I don't know how exactly it happened, but I think I talked about a trainer or something, and they gave me your card. So I called you, and I can't remember exactly, because it was like about, do you do dog walking or something? It's probably the way I approached you right initially, and you did.
Yeah, I remember the phone call. You had recounted this story. You just told me about how you picked up Dixie, and I was at work that day. I was doing animal control then, and you walked me through all this happened
in Ocean City, or still?
Yeah, I was in Ocean City,
yeah.
And you were, I think you were looking for both a dog walker, but also had some questions about training because it was like she had come back, but I think there was maybe a surgery coming up. And you were concerned about being able to walk her,
right?
Because she would pull at the other dogs.
Correct.
And and I think that's when we set up our first appointment. It's been
right, been 7 years.
Yeah.
So you've lived through it all. You've lived through every one of my surgeries.
Yeah.
Right. My knee replacement, my Achilles rupture.
So I'm pretty prepared now. When I get your age, I know it's coming.
Yeah, man. Oh God, I hope not for you. I really do. All right, just stick with Lindsay, so she'll take care of you.
I hope so.
Yeah, Corey might be a problem. He might terrorize you, but
no, he can walk the dogs.
Yeah, yeah, I guess he does. Huh? How old is he now?
9, just turned 9.
Is he really? Jesus. So wow, that's crazy. So yeah, and she had that major problem, and then she had a tumor cyst that got infected on her tail, so she had to have her tail amputated. So we lived through that. Then just recently, she looked like the Bride of Frankenstein. They took 67 staples and stitches out of her last week. 67.
Wow. What's funny, and I've been noticing as I spend some time with her, is it's almost gone.
Yeah.
Like she's already almost grown back. Like really quick recovery time.
Right?
Yeah, she's a trooper for sure.
This dog has been through so freaking much. It's unbelievable.
Now I want you to put that into some perspective.
There we go. Go ahead, go that way.
If you didn't pick her up, what chance would she have had?
None.
You know, especially with those medical issues. And, we talked about it earlier, but that's also a common reason, dogs get dropped off.
Right.
It's like medical issues that can be treated,
Right.
but people just don't have
Comes down to money.
the funds to do it. Yeah.
Right. And what do you think about, and I'm not, because they all seem to be similar. I don't know. I like Newkirk. He's probably the most expensive out of all of them. I mean, vets go, God bless them, because, I mean, they go to the same amount of time as a regular MD, I think, in school,
believe
don't
so.
they?
Yeah.
And so you got that, you got costs, you got liability insurance, just like running a doctor's office, basically employees, space, and, bazillion dollars worth of drugs.
I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that the veterinary field is one of those that are up there with highest stress related illnesses,
Gotta be.
levels of things like suicide up there. And it's not surprising to me hearing that type of stuff or reading it, because they see what we see in the animal rescue world. I mean, and I'm sure they being a dog trainer, it was funny, and I'll show you how this all ties back into is people would hire me to come into their home, sometimes paying hundreds of dollars, and I would, say, all right, this is what we're going to do. Here's the plan. And my type of training is I'm really trying to be as efficient as possible, because I want to ask them to change the least amount of their routine as necessary.
Right.
So we get compliance.
Right.
And even taking that approach, I would get clients who, I'm like, all right, so what I need you to do is practice with your dog 2 times a day, 10 minutes at a time.
And
It's something very simple for certain behaviors. And they wouldn't.
Right.
Now imagine being a vet, and it's like, all right, your dog is sick, but they're in a place where we can treat it. They just have to take this medication once or twice a day, and everything will be fine.
Right.
However, they know on the flip side, if the medication isn't taken, then things get more complicated. Maybe there may be some life-threatening complications, and
going to get more expensive.
Something
as
simple as taking a pill, taking medication. Folks just won't do it. Sometimes they don't even get the prescription.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine how frustrating that can be. And, we're all animal lovers. That's why you're in the field. I can't imagine there's a single person working with cats and dogs.
I'm only here for the money.
Yeah. There's no.
Yeah.
That's a statement you never hear.
Yeah. However, they do have you. They got you. Vets got you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If you got any money and you go to a vet, they got you. I mean,
there's a little bit of
what am I going to say? No,
right?
It's like, I literally have never said no to them about anything.
Yeah,
anything, like literally anything. It's like whatever.
It's similar to the medical field for us, I'm sure. And I speak talking about the veterinary field.
You're going to hold back from your kid? Well, you're going.
Yeah.
It really is the same for most of us pet owners, isn't it? I mean, it's we would do...
You do whatever they think's best.
Right. It's your kid, and then just barely below your kid is your animal.
Which I recommend. I mean, listen to your vets.
Right.
If there's anybody out there who has the answer for the medical issues, it is not Google.
Yeah.
Like it's your vets.
Right. Good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. But they do have you. They got it.
Sometimes I feel like, and just to mess around and play with it a little bit, is when I go to like the mechanic. I'm not funny. I'm on the auto podcast. I don't know a lot about the mechanics of a car, so I'm at their
don't feel bad,
their win. They could say my flux capacitor is broken, and I'm like, all right, how much is it?
Chrome fender dents.
Yeah.
Maybe chrome fender dent repair.
Yeah, so I mean, I've gotten so many radiator flushes in my day.
Radiator.
Yeah, exactly.
That's South Jersey talking.
Yeah, I know nothing about that world, but it's
sure
like when I go
Jim.
to the vet, they could tell me anything, and it's I trust them. Now in my
Right.
field, I've learned a lot more, so it's not the same as
Right.
just being around it. But like you said, they go to medical school for how
Right,
many
man.
years to learn that stuff.
That's right.
It far surpasses
Right.
what I'm doing.
Yeah. What I like about my vet too is he is more into holistic stuff. This turkey, what's it called? Trail. The mushrooms that I have her on supposedly, could help with her immune system and she's obviously prone to cysts and tumors. I just had
Right.
5 removed and she's got bumps all over her still. So, and some are fatty deposit, but there's some are cysts, some are tumors, and it could be endless. It's never going to stop. She's,
Right.
one was actually infected, so I figured, well, she's under, I'll get 4 others taken out. But, what are you going to do? If you have the money or have some access to money, because even now, most vets have these wellness cards or pet cards or whatever, credit cards,
Insurance,
basically,
kind of, yeah.
right? And or insurance. I think Joanna just got a rescue. She's got a little dog, Brody. This little dog's a little pain, but I shouldn't say that. That's not nice. But where is Brody? Brody's a cute little shit. Where is it? No. Dead air. That's not good.
Well, while you're looking for that, I want
go ahead.
to, we talked in the beginning, you started off with the question of like, what's the answer to,
let's
the
fix
problem?
that.
And, it's so multifaceted, but I think the biggest one is, I'm going to say it's a two-way tie.
Okay.
The first one is taking some ownership ourselves over knowing the problem, taking some ownership of knowing what my pet is in front of me, meaning behavior, training, the veterinary expenses. Like take the time to really learn and understand what you're getting into. Like I
Before you get a dog, or a pet.
before you get it, yeah. Or if you end up with something quickly, you find a stray or whatever it is, educate yourself as often as possible you can about it. I often tell people, it's like if I ended up with a falcon, a bird,
Gotcha.
I'd become a falcon trainer, and I would learn about everything I could about this falcon. Or if I had a horse. But sometimes, for whatever reason, when it comes to dogs and cats, there's not that same inclination for people to like really learn about their pets. And while you're doing it, take a moment to learn about the numbers of strays each year and understand how the amount of dogs and cats who are not spayed and neuter specifically correlates with the amount of animals being euthanized each year in this country. Like I said, it's something like I think it's 5,500 a day, roughly.
Jesus.
And that is specifically related to babies having babies, is what we call it. Dogs who are not fixed, cats who are not fixed,
Right.
and people who don't see the importance of doing it. Bob Barker, The Price is Right, he really was like one of the only voices out there for the longest time saying spay and neuter your pets.
No kidding.
He
I didn't
would
know that.
He would say it during every episode. I think right at the end he
Really?
would end with like a, spay and neuter your pets. And it's kind of funny because you often see people make fun of, him saying things like that. But it's like sometimes this really complicated problem has a really simple solution. And I don't think it is as simple as that. But boy, would it make a world of difference if everybody was just doing that.
Right.
It would
That
definitely
would eliminate half the issue.
it would radically change the animal rescue world.
Right.
If everybody was just doing that. And
Because then if you can get rid of the puppy mills and just have legit breeders, which there's nothing wrong with a legit breeder. I mean, hey, you know what? Perfect world. I'd love to have 100% purebred Rhodesian Ridgeback. You know, if anything happened to her, ultimately, that's what I'd love to have.
Yeah.
But I'm going to end up with another rescue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, now that I've had a dog, I can't. There's no, I live alone, so.
Right. I fully support responsible breeding.
Yeah.
But there sometimes is a thin line between a responsible breeder and a backyard breeder.
How would you differentiate that?
So I think the biggest one is the motivation. And I mean, it's a immediate red flag when you see somebody who isn't keeping animals in conditions you would keep your own pets.
Right, gotcha.
You know, that's an immediate flag. That maybe the motivation here is money and not the betterment of something.
I gotcha. Okay.
You know, it's more of a greed motive than, you know.
Yeah, well, this guy I alluded to earlier, he's in the automobile business. I know the guy real well, owns a very big, very, 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 very successful company, and he breeds these Yorkies. And it ain't for the money. I mean, this guy literally does not need the money. He does it out of love for the breed, and he's breeding really good dogs.
Right.
He gets a crap load of money out of them, though, man. I mean, it's like these dogs are.
Oh, a lot of those
$2,000
dogs can
or
go
whatever.
for, yeah.
Like,
and that's one of the problems of it is that it can be a lucrative business, especially for an unskilled person.
right, and the bully breeds, I would think.
Well, and that's one of the conundrums for me because you see so many people breeding these bully breeds,
Right.
but they're the ones being euthanized en masse. You know, that they're
Constantly.
There's so many of them. And
Wouldn't Alfred that's in the video that you sent me?
Yeah.
He's part pit, isn't he?
He definitely looks like he has.
He looks like it.
Some bully going on in
Yeah,
there.
while he was kissing you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He
big
is
bully dog, right?
One of the sweetest dogs. He's
Is that dog at the right?
just perfect.
at
Yeah,
the-
he's
Beacon?
at Beacon right now.
Is he ready to be adopted?
We are looking into some issues with his teeth. We're hoping to get him to the vet this week, and that's another one of those instances where these medical issues come up. I mean, besides the ones we plan for,
Right.
besides the ones we budget for, they just come up. You
Right,
know,
right.
it's life, and he's one of those cases. So we want to get him checked out by the vet and see if it's something severe, something we need to act upon immediately.
Again, he's adorable, man.
Oh, he is. He is gonna.
I
make
can't
some
watch those
family
videos
so
because it's like if I had. I mean, you know where I live, obviously, and it's like, I just I guess I could fence in that backyard into the woods there.
Yeah, what are you doing, Craig? Come on.
I know, man, but I'm going.
I'm kidding. I'm walking your dogs right now. I don't need.
Yeah, I'm going to rent
3 or
that
4
house
at a
or
time.
sell it or something, man. I'm going to do something. But even in my neighborhood, there are so many cats, and there's some legit feral cats in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big community that I live in. And there's this email thing. It's called Nextdoor or something. It's a app. It's
like a community message board or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
And I mean, it's once a week. My dog's missing. Okay, how could your dog be missing? Like, I get accidents can happen. I get it. Okay, but come on, man. I mean, it's once a week. And cats. And here's the weird thing about dogs and cats. Somebody will post something about my dog's missing. And it's like, oh my God, and it's a big 8 zillion replies, and the whole neighborhood's looking for this guy's dog, right? I had a cat a week walk through the woods right behind my house. And so I'll post on there, here's this cat, looks, and you can kind of tell the difference between a feral cat and a domesticated or someone that's a cat that's lost. They just look different, act different.
Right.
And I'll post something, crickets. Like, nobody gives a shit because it's a cat, I guess.
It's
I don't know.
But both the dog and the cat problem, it's like they're parallel, but there's so many different challenges to each of them. And some of the challenges that the cat people face is, one, cats are typically small. It's like if I have a dog running around my neighborhood, it's like everybody's like, there's a dog in the neighborhood. You know, somebody do
danger.
something. Yeah.
Right.
But you have a cat running around the neighborhood. Typically, they're not hurting people. They're not a threat to people. Typically, they are a threat to the birds, as we've seen. But that's one of the issues. It's nobody's sounding the alarm, and then on the other side of it, go ahead, sound the alarm. What's going to happen? Outside of a rescue organization coming in and spending time day after day attempting to trap the cat, which sometimes is not fruitful. Sometimes, especially if it's the first or second time a cat's being trapped, you can make something happen, but they get savvy to it. And then what are you going to do at that point? Bring it to a shelter where nobody picks it up.
It's going to be killed.
And then possibly euthanize it. It's like, sometimes you're like, what's the better option?
Let the cat run.
It's not an easy, there's no easy answers to that problem. Besides, let's start at the cause of it and making sure cats are spayed and neutered. Now, what I definitely recommend people to do is to let their local animal control know if there are stray cats in the area. So at best, we can spay and neuter these animals and stop that continued proliferation. There's a lot of TNR programs all throughout the country.
TNR, what's that?
Which is trap, neuter, release.
Oh.
And
really?
And the idea is catching the cats. You might see them in Atlantic City under the boardwalk. There's the boardwalk cats there. And group of highly dedicated animal rescuers who will trap the cats, get them fixed, inoculate them, get them up to date on shots, and then but also take care of the colonies as well. Watch over them if any of the cats are getting sick. But
no kidding, I had no idea.
But also there's so much in terms of time and resources and skill that needs to be had to handle all that.
And who does that? The local.
So a lot of times it'll be a lot of local no-kill rescues. At Beacon, we do a little bit of TNR to try to help out when we can. But like I said, it requires a lot of time. A lot of resources and skilled individuals who know what they're doing. I mean, there's laws surrounding trapping. There's a lot of risks in regards to trapping, not to mention the risks to the trappers themselves going into sometimes neighborhoods at night when it's dark out and usually in dark places and alleyways. I mean,
what are you doing with my cat?
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing with my dog?
And people don't take kindly. And I mean, there's a lot of, in animal rescue, there's a lot of women in the industry, and having them go out in these places by themselves. And it's not to mention, like I said,
you're saying women can't take care of themselves, right?
No, what I'm saying is it's scary out there. I mean, even for me going into, a neighborhood, wherever at the times of day that you need to check on these things. And, cat trapping often is done best at night because it's when they come out and are willing to go into the... So there's just so many obstacles there that make that a difficult problem to solve. The other problem facing the cat side of animal rescue, too, is that you can find a cat anywhere. I mean, if you walk down any city long enough, you might just find one behind a trash can somewhere.
Right. Take a cat home. Free adoption.
Kittens, are just everywhere. And, our adoption prices are really reasonable, and they cover all the medical care. So anybody who's doing the right thing by a cat, if they get the medical care done, I mean, it's comparable to what they paid to adopt from us. But oftentimes, people aren't, because they don't
my cat had kittens. You want one?
Yeah, that's a common story. We kitten season, when the weather starts getting warmer, is what it's known in animal rescue. Is all the rescues get inundated with calls of, we have kittens, will you take them?
There's a season for it.
Oh yeah.
No kidding.
Now if no kidding. Now I think there would be, and there is, a puppy season as well down in the South. And if there was, more rural areas and the laws were a little bit different up north, I think we'd have the same experience. But because, like I said, a dog running around a neighborhood raises alarms.
Right.
A cat running around doesn't raise those same alarms.
Right.
But yeah, we get inundated just as every rescue does. Yeah. We have kittens. Can you take them? And sometimes it's multiple calls daily.
Right.
And those kittens can be, a litter of kittens can be
Right.
as small as 2, which is very rare, to, 10.
Right.
It's like, all right.
Right.
Let's,
Right. And a lot of times you're rescuing these cats or dogs, they're already pregnant.
Oh, that is. I have a dog at home that was a result of one of those rescues.
Really?
Where an animal came in, and it was one of those, you hear about the stories of people not knowing they're pregnant. This dog came in at first, and we're like, oh, maybe just a large dog, and then you go, no, it's pregnant and ready to pop, and so we would take them in, and you raise the babies, and we kept one of those guys at home. So it's a lot of challenges everywhere you look in animal rescue, that's for sure. But
can I help you with something, Dix? What do I got here? Go ahead.
Craig's now digging through his bag of treats here, and Dixie, who was dead asleep, is
now awake,
pretty intensely focused on the bag here.
You're a pig. You're drooling all over Daddy here. All right. You want some Dixie food? Dixie food? All right,
but it's not all.
I'm going to feed her.
It's not all doom and gloom, though, and that's what I hope people can understand, that there are things that can be done, whether individually or through rescues. There is a lot of work that can be done. A lot of goals that can be accomplished in just a short amount of time, with understanding what it means to spay and neuter, educating friends and family, and supporting your local rescues. Even the county-run rescues, which are oftentimes called kill rescues, they're doing a service as well that is absolutely necessary. And everybody's just really trying to do their best, it seems like. And giving your support to these organizations really goes a long way into saving lives. And truth be told, if it saves one life, it's I call it a success.
That is a success. And guys, while I'm Dixie gets organic. This dog, organic everything. She's got. She takes a probiotic. She takes mushrooms. Not mushrooms like you get stoned on, like healing mushrooms for the immune system. All her treats are organic, and some of them are vegetables. She's half a vegetarian, I think.
I gotta say, if we had more dog owners like you, Craig, it would definitely be a different world. I walk Dixie regularly, as we've alluded to earlier, and she requires her healthy treat right after every walk. She's got an assortment of treats in the cabinet, depending on what time of day it is, maybe even what day it is.
That's right. Right. That's a little weird.
She takes more supplements than I do. She's going to outlive me, that's for sure.
It's funny. I when I'm going away on a trip or something, I leave Ryan this big long note about, okay, so all right, here's her new routine. So it's this treat after this meal, this treat after this meal, and it's like I can't imagine coming in there going, "Geez, really, Craig?" I mean,
of course I throw the note away. No,
yeah,
nah, she gets a ton of treats. She's a sweet girl. There you go. When I first met her, she was really reactive to a lot of the other dogs as we would walk, and there's definitely been a lot of improvement over the years with that, and still it's like specific dogs she'll pick a
man. She loves puppies.
She'll have a grudge
and
with.
Young dogs. She loves them.
Yeah.
She was playing with a what are the big poodles called? Poodle doodles.
Standard poodle or Labradoodle?
Yeah.
Golden Doodle?
There's one in the neighborhood that's probably like, I don't know, 10 or 12 months old, and she just loves this dog. She'll stop and play with it. And you've seen her. I mean, she goes into full attack mode on some dogs.
She goes in.
But what you did when you first started working with her and got my mind a little bit different is we started with her like from across the street instead of trying to push her into
Right.
Okay, you're going to make friends. You're going to socialize with dogs.
Yeah.
Not so much. So what you suggested and what I did, what I still do today is get gradually closer to that dog and bring her into the situation that obviously is stressful for her. Something happened somewhere along the way or just her breed or whatever. Who knows? Here's your special treat. Here, come here. Here you go, babe. There you go.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot as compared to any alternative. Because, it was like, the way she was initially trained was, and I use the pinch collar. People, there's a lot of different thoughts on a pinch collar. She doesn't mind it. And all I got to do, I barely flick my finger, and she knows, slow down, walk next to me, not pull.
Right.
It's like she knows, and it does not hurt her. Pinch collars are way better than chokers.
Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out there that Craig has used the pinch collar against my suggestion.
That's true. That's true.
But in your specific situation, there is it's rare that I would ever suggest a pinch collar, and by rare
Right.
I mean pretty much never.
Yeah.
But in your situation where necessarily taking the time to train her to not pull reactively to other dogs,
Right.
but to keep yourself safe with your
orthopedic
surgeries.
things. Yeah.
There is kind of a place there for you to be able to use that and keep yourself from injuring yourself again.
I didn't have I suppose you always got, oh my God, you're soaking wet. Oh God, Dixie.
He's talking about Dixie there.
Yeah, for those of you that, yeah, that would be weird. That's pretty funny stuff. Now go back over to my mind. Yeah, with her it was, it's been now, since she had these tumors taken out because she had some on her neck. She hadn't had the pinch collar on in, 5 or 6 weeks, and she's been fine. And she doesn't really need it now.
Right.
I had to get it through my mind, like, okay, I can walk this dog without the pinch collar on. I was afraid of her, frankly, getting out of that collar and going after other dogs. What do you want?
Well, I could get pretty deep into the weeds talking about, competing, training philosophies and things like that. And I'll try to kind of avoid some of that, but I do want to touch on it a little bit. You mentioned before, we talked about balanced training, which is this idea of, using force on animals when necessary, but also using sometimes rewards to motivate dogs. And it's been my experience that oftentimes those training techniques rely heavily on the force.
Right.
And here's the thing about it is that force, whether it's a correction or hitting or yelling or a spray bottle or an electric collar that shocks the dog,
Yeah.
they are effective in the sense that you can change behavior.
Correct, of
And
course.
sometimes immediately.
Right.
So it's almost, it can seem like a wonder drug.
Right.
You're like, wow, it's a problem solved. The dog stopped pulling. But it like with everything else in regards to animals, it's not that simple. It's
Right.
way more complicated.
Right.
And you often end up with a lot of issues regarding stress and anxieties, phobias, fears, and things that you've induced that were unnecessary when using those techniques. They're the longer route, which is oftentimes mislabeled, is learning what motivates your dog in an enjoyable way. so you can teach them how to behave appropriately and reward the right behavior, and also manage the environment so that they're not able to engage in bad behavior while you're teaching what is good. And usually there's almost a learning curve to it, where in the beginning learning can be real slow for a little bit, and usually this is on behalf of the human trying to
typically
redirect their attention on how they look at things. But afterwards, it's like the relationship you have with the animal is just unlike you would ever get if you were constantly correcting them or yelling at them. It's more like a teacher-student type relationship rather than a slave owner, or something like that.
Right.
And it's remarkable the things you can achieve with your pets taking that approach.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting, guys. If you would please, while I'm at it, please share. Send money to Beacon Animal Rescue. Hold an event at your dealership and have Beacon Animal Rescue out there. Get a bunch of their animals adopted and bring customers into your showroom, because people love animals. People love dogs and cats. Bring them into your dealership. Send money. If you're so inclined, volunteer. Dixie, do not start whining. That's you're out of treats, pal. You got one for the ride home, and that's it. Stop looking at me. See what she does? Look at her.
She wants those crackers.
Look at your face. Look at you. And she knows she's got me. Go ahead. Yeah, look at Ryan for a bit. There you go.
No, I'm good. I'm trained.
Just give Ryan the stare.
That's not going to work, Dixie.
Not going to work on Ryan, pal. No, sweetie. It's not going to work on Ryan. That only works on Daddy and Joanna. And Brendan. Well,
so are you thinking about another one?
I've been thinking about it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. Because she does love puppies.
Yeah.
But I just got to... I got to move anyway. I got to move out of my... I'm done with my neighborhood. I'm going to move. So I can get so much money for that place renting it, or I can come out of it selling it. So I want room for however much time she got left, and I don't know. Throughout all the crap that she's been through, she's pretty healthy, and I don't know. She doesn't look or act. However, no,
oh,
stop.
No. When I came
11.
today, she ran right over to me. Like
I don't get it. I mean, I've had her 7.5 years. Vets told me that. You want to talk? You want to speak? Oof. You want to speak?
She's thinking about it.
Vets told me that she was 3, 4, 5 years old when I got her, so that would make her at minimum 10.5, 10, 11.
See if we can get her to say something.
Don't reach her. Do you want to talk? You got something to say? You want to speak on behalf of all your doggy friends?
She keeps staring at Craig over here, kind of moaning at him.
Right. You can't have nothing. No, you're done. Oh, she's going over. What's she going to do? I thought she was coming over to you. There she is behind you. So, but no, volunteers, if you're in South Jersey, do that. These are great people at Beacon. They really are, man. It's like, I didn't know you had that many people volunteering. That's freaking amazing.
It's mind-blowing.
I don't know what kind of person you know what really blows my mind is people that foster animals between do you guys have fosters?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. That's something there's no way. There's zero way I could do that. Yeah. Zero way I could bring a dog or animal or whatever into my home for a certain amount of time, knowing that it's a month or 3 months or 6 months or whatever, but that dog's ultimately leaving, that I'm just like a middleman to it's forever. There's zero way I could do that, Ryan. I don't understand the parts of those people. They're huge.
Well,
I don't get it.
We would call you a foster failure is the term in the
there's
industry.
There's no doubt.
It's the best type of failure.
Well,
It really
I'd end
is.
up with 6 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or I'd have to stop after the first one. It was just, there'd be no way.
Yeah, I have a foster failure at home, and I'm a little hesitant to use that term because I think we kind of went into it like, all right, we're probably going to keep this dog. You know,
Right.
it was when we had that
I can
litter
remember
of
you telling
puppies
me.
we had to raise. You know, but that's common. We just had a dog recently who came in off the truck and just needed medical help, and we reached out to Facebook, our followers, and we raised a ton of money to be able to help with all these medical issues that just compounded on us all at once.
Right.
And this poor dog, he was a puppy, and he needed to go to the vet, emergency vet, over and over and over again over the course of, a month. And we had a woman volunteer to be a foster, and she came in, and we make sure all of our fosters meet all of the criteria to
Right.
even adopt a dog for us. So
Right.
our fosters and our adopters all
Right.
are held to that same standard.
Good.
And she came in, and it was like perfect timing. She took the dog in, and she was just, it was like, I don't know if whatever you believe in, whether it's God or whatever, it was like an angel came to take care of this dog.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't have a foster in that situation,
Yeah.
I don't know what
Right.
we would have been able to do for that dog who needed rest, who needed, multiple surgeries, who needed to be confined and calm, and is a puppy, a male puppy at that.
Yeah.
And, she just spent time with him every day,
Right.
constantly. She had the time, and she just adopted him the other day.
Oh,
And
did
it was
she?
a foster failure, but man,
Yeah.
it couldn't have been any better.
Right.
She had been considering, and it was one of the reasons she actually came to volunteer with us.
Yeah.
And, it's a story like that just, really,
Yeah.
really brightens up your day. Anytime
Does
you
that
think
happen a
about it.
lot or no?
The foster failures, it's common enough that we have the term.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
You
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
But
I guess it would.
it's not easy for anybody
No.
to foster an animal,
can't
as you
imagine,
can
man.
imagine, because all of us love animals.
Right.
And it's like a friend that you meet and you really grow accustomed to, and it's really hard to say no.
Yeah.
And every time I have to consider bringing an animal into my house for any type of foster situation, I have a strategy. I go into it and I say, like, all right, this
Right.
is, here we're going to put a number on the end date, the number of animals we're keeping in the house. And I try to be really structured and even set up a process for just how I take care of my pets and fosters that come in. But all the plans go out the window when the dog's licking your face or the cat comes and sits on your lap, you know?
right.
All the best laid plans.
Right.
And before you know it, I'm the one who's, on the one end was like, no,
Right.
no. And at
Right.
the end of it, I'm like, please,
Right.
And it's not easy. It's not easy for anybody to do. And I think that kind of defines all of animal rescue.
Right. Probably.
Because you get attached to all the animals. I mean,
Right.
every transport that comes in, and I
Yes.
talk about it
Yes,
a lot
that
at the
times
rescue.
500 for you.
Every time they come in, it's like I meet every single dog at some point, and I go, I could take this one home.
Yep.
You know? And then I'm like, stop, Ryan.
Right,
You know
right.
you can't, but I play with it a little bit
know.
at least,
Yeah.
the thought.
Right.
And that's common. I'd imagine if you asked all of us, we all
assume.
say that,
What other reason? I mean, it's totally out of love for animals, and
The lucky ones of us cannot have an animal, and it's because of some external circumstance.
right where you live or whatever.
Yeah, we're lucky. They're lucky because it's like
Right.
you don't have to make the decision; it's made for
Right.
you. But everybody else who has a little space in their house,
Dude, you can
it's
read
tough.
it. Doesn't, you don't have to go too far on Facebook, and you read about. I mean, there's a woman somewhere that has like 1,000 animals. She has this gigantic piece of land, and well, shit. I mean, Caesar. There's a lot of different rules or thoughts about that guy, but I thought he was kind of a cool guy. But I mean, he had a shitload of animals himself, and then he had that pit that was his life.
Right.
Well,
Well, it's hard. The the rabbit hole is deep, and it's hard getting into animal rescue and getting out. I don't often see people get out.
Oh, is that right?
It's like you're in.
That's a good point.
And
Once you're in, you're in.
It's like a lifelong thing. I mean, people not joke about, they maybe entertain getting out seriously. And oftentimes I'm like, no, you're not going nowhere.
Yeah. And the thing is, you ain't never going to get rich through that.
Oh,
right?
no.
So,
yeah, no, there's.
I mean, there's got, that's not a money-making
No, on
deal.
the other end of it, though, there is a thin line between like rescue and wanting to do the best and then ending up in a hoarding situation, which is another thing we see often. It's like the opposite effect of somebody who doesn't care enough. It's like somebody who cares to such an extreme that they forego, their care for themselves, which eventually turns into not even caring for the animals appropriately.
Correct.
There's like a dissonance there somewhere where they can't even see that what they're doing is not actually rescue.
Right.
And
they're nuts.
And that's a really common story too, but it's a risk people in animal rescue kind of take, because if you opened up, you could easily fill your house with 30 cats or 60 cats.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard to do it.
Yep.
And the same side on dogs. It could happen. I don't know. Sometimes when I see folks with 10, 15 dogs, you gotta,
that's a problem.
Like, I don't know
how unless you got 1,000 acres,
is,
that's a problem.
Yeah. I got 3 right now, and I can't say we haven't thought about more.
Right. You have 3?
Yeah. But
who's that little one that you brought over to the house one time? We were trying to get
Ella.
Yeah, Ella.
Yeah, that was Ella.
You still have that?
That's my oldest.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's great. She went all over the country with me.
Yeah.
I got her when I was I was not ready for a dog. That was about 10 years ago.
She's in some of those pictures when you're like out in the woods and
we traveled everywhere. I was backpacking, hitchhiking the country and whatnot. She was there with me. Cool. I needed a partner who I could trust unconditionally, and a dog will do that for you.
Yeah, man.
Funny thing about it is not that I'm recommending anybody do it, but it was like one of the best training experiences her and I could have had together. We were together 24/7.
I would guess so. Yeah, you go all the time, and she had to.
And socialization. I mean, there was no. It's not like we were socializing as a practice. I was like, that's just it. Like we just have to be in the world. We're living off my backpack, so you have to meet everybody, go everywhere, do everything,
And then you had one dog, maybe, I don't know, man, I lost track of time, but definitely within the last year, you had some initial problems with, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was some behavior at home, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there she is.
You're going to bark at me? Seriously? You're seriously going to bark at me? Lay down. Go sleepy. Take a nap. Yeah, nothing's happening right now.
Where's the treats, Dad?
Yeah, the treats are done, pal. You had your lunch. You had all your Dixie food. You had all your special.
You had your mushrooms.
You had your mushrooms. Yeah, everything. No weed. You don't get any weed. No weed. So you had some problems with that dog.
Yeah.
Problems the right way to put it? Or?
Problems is probably an understatement. He came in and he was a mess. I mean, he was lucky, and not to toot my own horn or family or anything like that.
Toot away.
If he, would have ended up anywhere else, I don't see how anybody would have managed what he was going through. Outside of another trainer or somebody really dedicated in rescue who had the time, because
behavior with humans, other dogs.
He was dealing with high amounts of stress and anxiety. I mean, when we brought him into the house, it was like he was like a hair trigger in terms of like touching him. He couldn't handle
really
just being touched. He was whining constantly, and whining's not even a good word. He would just yell. He would just be yelling for no reason other than, I guess, pent up stress. He would drink obsessively, to the point where
I did that. I had 9 DUIs. So I
you
had to
drink
quit.
water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Obsessively. Good thing it's just water.
Right.
That would have been a whole nother
Yeah, man.
situation. Yeah, you'd be an angry drunk, I think.
Drunken dogs.
Yeah.
Dixie, stop. Come here. Come here. Go ahead. I'm
So,
sorry. Dix.
he would drink obsessively, pant. He couldn't sit still. I mean, this was, every minute of the day, 24/7 for a good while, at least a month or so.
How was he with Corey? Was he okay with Corey?
So that was one of our major concerns. Now, luckily, Corey's had a lot of experience with dogs. I mean, he's 9 now, and him and I have worked together on learning some basic training things and different things about dogs, and probably much more than he wants to deal with. But
probably.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah,
that's what you're growing up in.
He's a real sharp kid too. So.
Yeah, so he picks up on that stuff pretty quick, and so that was one of the concerns. And we had a talk before we made the decision. A family get together, and we said, this might not work, and this is the way we need to behave around him. He doesn't have a real bite history that we know of, but any dog who's in a state of stress like he was, it's always a risk, So we took some precautions, specifically making a list of rules, and we had Corey write the rules down. He helped come up with some of the rules before we even brought the dog in. Things like not touching the dog when he's, eating or around a bone or a toy, and not grabbing the toy from him at first.
Right. That's good advice almost regardless.
Yeah, and making sure he's around around an adult when he's playing with the dog. And so a lot of things like that, and he was on board with us. And Lindsay and I, my fiance, we looked at each other and basically said, if at any point this does get dangerous, it's
gotta go.
We got to do what we got to do.
Right.
But luckily, that never came up. It was never an issue. The problems he had were, it's not that he was hurting anybody, but he himself was suffering in ways that were very, they just heartbreaking to see somebody in so much like discomfort and pain.
Right. If it was a human.
Oh yeah. It would break your heart.
Right.
There would be a GoFundMe or something.
Right.
And
there should be GoFundMe for dogs. Well, there is really.
Yeah.
I mean, right. I mean, you guys raised money for that one dog you were talking about. Had all the medical issues. You guys raised money on that.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that.
We've done it a few times. Well, we're always raising money, so I mean, it's not any different. But we'll do specific campaigns, and the benefits of doing those specific campaigns is that they'll really highlight some of the specific challenges that we face, and put a face on the animal that people are helping and saving. And we try to approach people for different reasons that might encourage them to want to help us, and sometimes. Putting a face on it really does help. And that money does go directly to whatever the surgery may be or whatever it is.
It's just a matter of covering costs. I mean, there ain't no profit. I mean, they got to pay you somehow, but other than that, there ain't no profit.
Right. It's
guys aren't building big houses.
And my goal there as the director is really to how can we increase our impact?
Right.
So it's what can we do differently to hold ourselves to the same, if not a higher standard tomorrow, or more than we did yesterday, and have a bigger impact on the animal community at large, and educating people about what they can do specifically to help solve the problem, or at least support us while we help solve the problem.
All right. Well, let me go into that one last time.
Thank you, Chris.
So here's what I want you guys to do. And this is no shit. It's like, I'm talking, I don't care if it's $10, $100, $1,000, or $10,000 or whatever you got. Just give it. Go to Beacon Animal Rescue, or reach out to me. You can DM me. I don't care. You can text me. I don't care. Just reach out to me. Reach out to Ryan, friend Ryan on Facebook, Ryan Parker, Parker, like Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
right.
Just like Spider-Man.
All right, so, you're probably sick of that. So, I would be anyway. Reach out to Ryan, or go to Beacon Animal Rescue on Facebook. They do a real nice job in social media, in my opinion. And but reach out to Ryan, reach out to myself, and just give them money, flat out. Again, if you're a car dealer or you have some influence at the dealership that you work at and you're a fan of the podcast, go to your dealer. If you're an hour and a half from South Jersey, let's put an event together. Brings customers into your dealership. It's the right thing to do. You're going to get a bunch of dogs adopted. There was one, I forget where it was, but man, you hold these adoption events, man, and you get 8, 10, 12, 15 dogs adopted like that, and cats. I keep forgetting the cats, sorry.
That's okay.
This is a brutal story. I think I might have told you this story. But when I was a kid, my dad ended up buying a farm. It's a big, long story. But so I ended up living on a farm. And all farms come with barn cats. And these cats had been there. These cats were demented. They had, we had some real, they were like insensual, like generations of these cats multiplying. Their leg coming out of its stomach. These cats were up.
Hills have eyes, kind of.
Oh, man, they were train wrecks. And there was 30 of them. Literally 30 cats on the property.
Yeah.
So and we were out in the middle of nowhere, and there would be wolverines or whatever animals would attack these things during the winter. And it was during spring cleanup, we'd go tap the maple trees. We happened to have a sugar shack on the property where we would make maple syrup and candy and so forth. And then one of my jobs was to clean up the property from the winter. The winters were brutal. It was on the far east side of Cleveland, out in the middle of freaking nowhere. But, we'd have 5, 6, 7 cats with holes in them that had been attacked by animals.
Yeah.
So my dad, and these cats were still frozen. They hadn't thawed from the winter yet. And we had these fire barrels around the farm where I'd throw trash, and I'd have to break these cats.
Oh, man, that's
right?
awful.
Right? So my aversion to cats kind of came from that. It was like, man, I don't want to deal with no more cats. It was a bad childhood memory, man.
That can really affect growing up. I imagine you might have talked with your therapist a few times about the effects of that.
I've never brought that up to him. Probably
Maybe you should have.
Probably should. I can remember when my dog, after my childhood dog died, we got another dog. My dad came home with a St. Bernard puppy. Huge, gigantic dog. So when this dog passed, my dad said, take care of this. Brandy was the name of the dog. Go ahead and, I said, Dad, this dog's 170 pounds. I'm going to have to take the tractor and dig a hole. Yeah, that's what you got to do. Take the tractor, dig a hole in the pasture, and bury her. Okay, so it's like, I could put this dead dog in the front end loader of a tractor, and it's like brutal, man.
Yeah.
But
different times.
Farm life.
Different times.
Yeah.
I know.
So, all right. So a couple things here. If you're in the market to get a pet, dog, cat, all right. First of all, I don't know. What is the reason? Is there any good reason to go for a purebred dog? Aren't they more prone to more health issues than mixes, or no? Or excuse me, or is there no difference, you think?
So,
some got to be.
There are issues with health
this
issues.
bulldog thing.
Right.
These dogs last 4 or 5 years and they're dead.
There's some specific breeds that without human help just wouldn't exist. Bulldogs being one of them.
Right.
It's often because they need human assistance when birthing them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if they were.
Oh, no kidding! I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then a lot of the traits they select for in specific breeds like that are also the same traits that cause a lot of the health issues.
Right.
The flattened noses often have.
Right. They can't breathe.
The breathing issues. The the flaps of skin that cause all types of
Right.
dermatitis and
Right.
all types of
and
funk
they
and stuff.
they think when you see a fat one, you're like, oh, isn't that cute?
Right.
And it's like,
Right.
no, that dog's unhealthy.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the problem is people wanting dogs who visually
Right.
look or a certain way.
Right.
And I can't say I'm completely immune to that. I don't know too many
Right.
people who are, but
Yeah, I mean,
that
like
is definitely not
Goldens
the-
are so awesome. I mean, they're beautiful dogs.
Right,
Their
right.
nature seems to be loving and caring, and a great
Yeah.
family. The dog, quote unquote.
they also tend to be prone to the hip dysplasia,
Right.
a lot of the cancers and things like that. So
Right, exactly.
in terms of the purebred dogs, there are a lot of that
Right.
those concerns that you have.
Right.
But that's not to say that any dog is immune
Right.
to whatever it may be.
Right.
Now, me personally, I know so many rescue dogs, thousands of dogs who
Right.
I've met, whether through training, kenneling, rescue, animal control, whatever it may be. And it would just never make sense for me,
Right.
knowing what I know,
Right.
to go somewhere and specifically
Right.
get
yeah.
a dog. Now, what I can recommend to people, whether they're buying from a breeder or hopefully a rescue, is that they're doing their research before. They are self-aware in terms of what they're
point.
looking for.
Right. Temperament and so forth.
If you spend most of your time when you're at home getting off work and you're tired and you're watching TV, then maybe you shouldn't go out and look for the young Australian Shepherd puppy.
Right.
Um,
Right.
So
Good point.
now that's not to say that breed defines all behavior, but it's a pretty good
lot.
starting point.
You
It's a
bet.
pretty good place to, but part of it is being self-aware, like what you're getting into. If you have a
Right.
dog whose activity level doesn't match yours, whether it's because you're too active or you're not active enough,
Right.
you're going to end up with issues at some point.
Right.
And not that you can't bridge the distance there between you and them. There's definitely things you can do, but
Yeah.
set yourself up for success if possible.
Yeah.
Set
I know.
the dog up for success.
Although she's asleep on the floor next to me now, but she's a hunting dog. I mean,
Right.
she'd be a perfect.
Right.
Perfect might be a stretch, but she would be a really good hunting dog. She's a scent hound. Her instincts are amazing, and it's like, I take her swimming a lot, and she just loves the pool, loves to run. And that's how she gets herself injured. She used to run like a freaking horse. Sometimes I feel so guilty. It's like, man, why don't I just go buy 100 acres of land, fence the damn thing in, and let her be a dog and run? It's because she kind of leads a double life. It's kind of, she's kind of adapted herself more to my life than me to her, maybe. I think maybe a
I'm
little
sure.
bit.
Yeah.
And some people don't do that well, I guess, but.
Well, that's often the reason an adoption fails. It's that mismatch in energy levels.
Yeah.
If you have a dog, time and time again, I see dogs that it's usually males, they're usually young, and they usually have a ton of energy, dogs. And they don't fit well into the typical modern American home.
Right.
And a lot of when I was doing training, a lot of my clients was that specific thing. And,
Right.
my goal is to keep the dog in the home. But there's often times where I would come into a situation, I would look, and it's like, unless these people make a huge turnaround in how they're approaching this, it's going to be problems all the way down until, one, the dog either calms down, which is no guarantee.
Right.
I've known plenty of what we call forever puppies who are just active dogs
Forever.
up until the day.
Right. Regardless of the amount of training, basically.
Now, usually, if your dog is active, still really hyper at around 3 years old,
Right. That's not changing.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what you got.
Yeah.
And so that's always a big challenge, and that's a lot of dogs you end up with in a lot of shelters.
Yeah.
And to compound on top of that, those are the type of dogs who typically don't do well in shelters.
Yeah.
as
Right.
well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because it's a confined space. They're spending sometimes up to 20 something hours just in their own mind, kind of going crazy.
man. That's
so
sad.
it's like a double whammy with those types of dogs.
Yeah. And dogs need challenges.
Oh yeah.
and stuff. I mean, when I don't feel like it, it's like, oh, I don't feel like this, and I'll say, Dixie, let's go. You want to play cupcake? Bang! She goes, the squeaky cupcakes, and it's like I kick it into the living room. She goes and chases it, brings it back, throws it up on the floor, the sunken floor. And I don't feel like doing that, but I know she needs that stimulation for a bit, or on the weekends now when I walk her and you don't, it's like, I walk her twice. I walk her at night too, and it's just a walk,
right?
To let her smell and get her jollies off. And
but for her, it's like,
it's the world.
The best.
It's the best, man.
Like,
that's her world.
She's with
smelling,
you. She's out there.
Yeah.
Hey,
if you can't dedicate something like that, and it's like, and Ryan's right. You gotta research the breed. You gotta research being a pet owner. Period. And see what you're going to come up against. Producer Dave and I talked earlier, and we were talking about chows. And I had one time for a short period of time, had a chow. I was married at the time for a short period of time, and she wanted a chow. It's like, this is the meanest freaking dog of all time. I mean, like, this dog hated everybody except for her. And I mean, and this dog was mean. And then there was no internet then, or there was no Google then, I don't think. Was there Google 25 years ago? No, I don't think there was. So. No.
And the internet was still kind of.
Right, young.
Yeah.
So, where are you going to get the information from somebody trying to sell you a dog? So it was like, nobody told me, hey, these dogs are mean. But they are not the broad stroke chows.
They can be.
But they can be pretty intense dogs.
Well, a good breeder is breeding dogs for the job they were typically bred to perform.
Right.
And chows, I'm not completely versed on their origins and history, but from my understanding, they played the role of a guard dog.
Correct.
And so there's certain behavioral traits that you're looking for when you breed that type of dog. And oftentimes you don't want the friendly guard dog.
Right.
You know? And to be a guard dog, it's like they're great at it. But nowadays, at least the American population isn't using dogs typically for what they were bred to do.
Yeah. Right. No, we want friends.
We want a friend.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And not that there's anything wrong with wanting a friend, but you want a friend, but genetics want something else, and there's
still animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's that nature versus nurture. And it's hard to say, who's going to come out on top in that.
Right.
But you're always going to get some of that nature that you still have to recognize. And
you let most dogs loose in the wild, they're going to become wild dogs at some point. They're going to revert back to their natural nature, their original purpose, are they not, or no?
Well, it's hard to say. Humans have been with dogs now. The last guesstimate, and this is I'm just going off of memory here, I believe is as far back as 50,000 years ago, which is, a long time ago.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, original estimates were something like 15,000, but it's like as more information comes in, we go, oh, no, they were with us a lot longer.
Right.
They were with us a lot longer. And that keeps happening. So it could even be a case where they were with us even longer than that. I'm not sure. Right. So it's hard to say naturally, what they're going to do. But we do have enough instances throughout the world where...
Shout out to John Priest. How you doing, JKP?
Hey, John. Where dogs have been living feral for quite some time now, and what we see is that they do kind of run in packs, but not what we typically think of as a pack. It's more of it kind of reminds me, my understanding of it, and I haven't spent much time paying attention to stray packs.
Right.
But it reminds me kind of when I watch seagulls. And it's like they work together, they communicate together, and they all fight each other.
Ah.
It's like everybody just tolerates one another.
Oh, that's interesting.
Whereas a dog in a household, that is not the experience we have.
Right. Not at all.
It's rarely that. It's more of a loving, social family bond type situation.
Right.
And I think,
if not, there's something mental with the owner or the dog or the animal.
Yeah.
Because both could happen.
And I think we can kind of see a parallel in humans as well in, tough situations where people need to strive to survive.
Right.
There's not a lot of room for compassion and empathy.
That's right.
Whereas a family unit or something, people really,
it's not dissimilar at all.
Yeah.
And some people are assholes. Some animals are assholes.
That's true.
And they're never going to change. I've met some pets that are assholes.
I've met some people. No.
Yeah. A lot of people. Yeah. It's like.
No. And for some animals, it's like they love their human, but everybody else could eat crow. They don't care. My one dog at home, she has her family, 10, 15 people who she's accepted in, and unless you're spending a lot of time around the house and part of the family, you're the enemy. She doesn't care about you at all.
Joanna's roommate has a dog that is literally the only dog in my entire life that I can remember absolutely hates me, bites me every time I come walk in the door.
Good.
But within that family, Joanna's roommate's daughter, and Joanna's daughter and her son, this dog's fine. But with me, goes off the rails.
Right,
I mean, literally nips at me. It's one of those little dogs. And it nips me every time I walk in the door. And it's like I've tried everything with this dog. Enormous amount of treats, everything. I come anywhere near this dog, it's ready to attack me.
They say the dogs can sense.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's true. But that's true. They do say that. And it's like, and so I keep reminding them. I said, every dog loves me. To try to, to buffer myself.
I've had plenty of dogs who, with me and them,
don't
love at first sight, and then I've had plenty of dogs who, their greeting is "I'm biting you."
Yes,
there's It's hard to say that they necessarily all sense something or have a sixth ability.
So spayed and neuter.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. If
job one,
schedule it today. Get it done sooner rather than later.
Because I'm going to jump around here with statistics.
Yeah, no worries.
This, I don't know if this just boggles my mind. This can't be right. And I don't know what what they put under when I did this research, what they considered a shelter.
Right.
But they said there's only 3,500 of them in the country. That just doesn't make sense to me. That would mean 60 per state. That doesn't sound right to me.
So my understanding of...
Are you considered a shelter or no?
Yes.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
My understanding of some of the laws are very regional in terms of New Jersey.
Hey, Chris Walsh, I got one of the biggest dog owners, dog lovers in the world here. He's got a dog named Petey that is the most awesome guy. Dog. Chris is an awesome guy too, but his dog is just
right on.
Awesome
hey, Chris.
dog.
Hey, Petey. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, awesome. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so in New Jersey, we're required what we call a county shelter in every county, and those are typically the ones that are state funded by tax money.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, but they are required to euthanize for space.
Okay.
Whereas a nonprofit like Beacon Animal Rescue.
Right. So let me interrupt you. So where I got her in Pleasantville, that's a state.
Yeah.
Okay.
They receive funding from the state.
Okay. Okay.
Beacon Animal Rescue, on the other hand, is a nonprofit organization who we survive solely off the support of individuals and businesses and fundraising that we may do.
Right.
What that means is that we don't receive any funding from the state, but we are not required to euthanize. Right. So we can take in as we like,
So the state-funded ones are So am I to assume that they are expected to? I mean, that's just part of the deal.
So
After a certain amount of time, you got to euthanize this animal, right?
the reason being is that they are required to take in animals from the county.
I gotcha. Okay.
And so to do so,
One's gotta go.
It's more of a byproduct rather than a prime directive. You know, they're not saying
I
you
hear
must
ya.
euthanize. They're saying you must take in dogs.
Right.
The only solution to that then is that
Right.
they have to
Right.
euthanize for
Right.
space.
Either get that dog adopted or you're going to have to euthanize the dog.
Which is, you know, they often get a bad rap because nobody wants to hear that we're euthanizing
I can't
dogs.
Imagine working at a place like that.
But if anything, they deserve oftentimes a little bit more respect for sure for making these difficult decisions. And
Can you imagine being that guy that's got to literally do that deed?
I'm grateful that I don't have to do that. I mean, there are instances where, you know, throughout my career, I have had to either be the sole decision maker on euthanizing an animal, or, you know, along with a committee, and it's not easy because you're playing God in a sense. And,
You don't know.
you know, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
And who else better than somebody who's in the middle of it, you know, living it on a regular basis.
Guys, share this out while we're talking here. Please share this out. Chris, share this out to your buds.
So I'm not sure what numbers of shelters they count in that statistic, but
I don't know. It just doesn't, it sounds low, right?
The only places, it does sound low, but the only places that nonprofit organizations typically survive and thrive are areas where they can receive funding from the communities in some way, shape, or form. So you think about the more rural areas.
No shelters.
They don't have these nonprofits.
Right.
They often
Nonprofits,
have
right.
something usually attached to maybe the police department or law enforcement handling animal control and dealing with, you know, the stray animals or rabies is often one of the big
so-called animal control. You know, the ones that come and grab your dog with that neck thing.
I call it a bite pole.
Yeah, the dog catcher from the old days.
That's what they used to be called.
So that's state supported in all cases, right? In most states, or
so I know here in New Jersey, it is required that every municipality has some type of animal control taking care of that aspect.
And that runs the full gambit. Animal control could be from whatever. Right.
So each municipality kind of gets to decide how they divide up there has been a recent change in the laws that animal cruelty cases have been taken over in New Jersey by police departments rather than used to be animal cruelty investigators.
Is that a federal law now, or are those state laws where animal abuse when
I was in animal control, I think there was a push at the time. I'm not too familiar right now. I haven't been doing that for a little while.
Right.
But I think there was a push to make it a federal.
Yeah.
The problem there too, and like I said, there's so many paths we can go off talking about this, is that animals are seen as property. More recently, property with, you know, consciousness or whatever you want to ascribe to it. So the law has been adjusting a little bit, but ultimately, in a lot of instances, at least for the longest time, it was like breaking your TV. You know, would get treated the same type of thing, or somebody stole your dog. It's well, the punishment here is how much is the dog's market value, and it's you look at it and it's like, whoa, that's it's dismal.
Yeah,
but there have been a lot of improvements lately, and I'm not completely well versed in the law regarding animal cruelty or anything like that. I never myself became an animal cruelty officer. But it's, I think it's just there's so many problems, and oftentimes a county running on a minimal budget, it's like, where are they going to cut costs? It's like, the cats and the dogs. We have we got poor people in education, or maybe in some of the bad cases, corrupt officials or something. And of course it makes sense that they're going to cut money for animal control, which often which often the effect that it has is that the quality of care or importance drops.
Right.
And so the next time around, even more so, do they think less of that?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I get
It's
you.
less of a priority. And it
Well,
just
I would
kinda-
assume, am I assuming correctly that you would have, or you have the option of approaching the state and become state funded, but then along with that would come all the other minutia that you'd have to follow all their regulations and bylaws and so on and so forth, right? Or no?
I'm not sure how that process works, but
Yeah.
I know because
And you already have an infrastructure, so it would,
a lot of those county shelters were created at the time of some of the animal control laws when they first went into place back when they were known as the dog catcher. And
right.
my understanding of that history was it was directly done to address rabies of wild dogs.
Oh, you're right, of course. And
Yeah.
now that's not
Right, that's
a
not really a
thing.
concern anymore with dogs per se. But that's because of that. You know, we put that in place as a society. I mean, I wasn't here obviously, but that was put into place and got rabies, and dogs are no longer,
right a thing. Yeah.
But at some point, it was a real thing walking out your house to go to your job, ride your horse to work or whatever. A pack of rabid dogs was actually a
Thing.
concern for you.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's quite a different world.
All right, so we got spayed and neutered. We got adopt, don't shop. And again, I don't know, we've gone over that quite a bit, but it's like, I don't know, my thoughts have just changed on that over the years and through experience. I just got older, and you hope that you get a little bit smarter, and it's like, duh, it makes sense. And I would, I got nothing against, I'm not talking badly about, dog lovers or animal lovers, cat lovers, what have you. So I got nothing against people that are buying purebred dogs and so on and so forth. But man, adopting is just such a better option. You are literally saving the life of an animal. I mean, that's what you are doing. End of story. That's what you're doing. It's like painting the Brooklyn Bridge, though. It's like, and I don't know, these stats here, 200 million strays. This is just dogs worldwide, 200 million. Read an article, 500 strays in Detroit. And you're talking about, you got second, third, fourth, fifth generation feral dogs now that are traveling in packs. Those are wild animals in a city where you cannot approach these dogs. These dogs are dangerous to society, basically. You've got, these are all statistics. I don't, this could all be bullshit, but 70 million dogs in the United States alone. Only 6 to 8 million go into shelters, which is just amazing to me.
If I can add to that number there, if the latest report that was done by, I believe, the Humane Society of the United States, that 1.5 million of those animals are euthanized each year.
Say that again.
1.5 million are euthanized each year, which is that number is massive. That's hard to think about.
Wow.
105 million animals. But that number is actually decreased, if you believe it, from, I think the last report was like 2010 or 2011 by, I think it used to be closer to 3 million. So what nonprofit rescues are doing is really, we're making an impact.
Yes.
That's for sure. But, we're maybe at the halfway mark.
Right.
We're trying to, and I'm not saying that a no euthanasia for animals possible world is the goal. I don't know that we could ever reach that. Probably
impossible.
But 1.5 million definitely seems like we can make a ton of improvement there.
Yeah. Out of all these numbers, out of the 70 million I have written down here, 3.3 million got adopted. Last year, I think this was 3.3 million adoptions. Does that make any sense? That number? That number could make sense, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to
If there's if there's 3,500 places like yours, and you're putting out you're getting 500 adopted a year.
well,
I guess it's possible.
I can't say that a lot of other rescues are doing that type of.
That's a big number.
Yeah, that's large for us, at least in this area. In some
Okay.
of the more metropolitan areas, I'm sure the numbers
Right.
are a lot higher, where there's
Right.
a bit more people
Right.
and whatnot. But
Right.
for us, that's pretty. It stands out.
I can't imagine what it must be like in L.A. and what's that called, Skid Row.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
sure.
there's got to be darn near as many dogs and cats as there is people out there homeless.
Sure.
I would think.
Yeah.
And you got those dogs, like you said, dog will adapt. They'll, you look at dogs that are with our military and they're deployed in Afghanistan or whatever, and man, those dogs are in lockstep with their
Yep.
master, and
Yep.
you can see the love there. And in a dog, and again, not that cats aren't like this, although cats are not quite as lovey as dogs, obviously, but
I have a few cats who would
Yeah.
disagree.
Yeah, there are. Well, like I said, my son's cat, and my daughter's always had a lot of cats, and they're very friendly, and have certain attitudes. I guess they're probably like their owners. But you see homeless people living in the street, man. Their dogs are cuddled up right next to them.
Right.
But I can't imagine you're trying to be homeless, and there's a zillion reasons people are homeless, but now you got a dog with you. It's like. I guess it's a good thing for the homeless person, and it's a good thing for the dog, I guess. Even in that situation, it's better than the dog being killed, I suppose.
This isn't an endorsement of getting dogs when you can't, when you're
Right.
unable to take care of yourself.
Right.
But I know when I was traveling with my dog, a lot of the dogs that I met from folks who were homeless, some of the most well-behaved dogs I've ever met.
Right. Yeah, I
And-
would think.
And I think a part of it is just being with an owner 24/7.
Right.
Yeah. They naturally inclined to be with, members of a social group.
Right.
And so having that
Right.
leads to
That's a good point.
a healthier mindset, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But also the socialization aspect of it, where it's like modern America, it's like we socialize our dogs. It's a thing we do.
Right.
On
Dog
top
parks
of
and-
taking care of our dogs. It's like
Right.
we also have to bring them with intention and do it a certain amount of times and, work through that. Whereas like a dog living on the street with a human, it's
Yeah.
like socialization isn't a thing. It's like
Right.
asking a fish what water is.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
that dog is just socialized.
Right.
It doesn't have a choice because
Right.
if it isn't being
Right.
appropriate,
Right. We're not going to doggy daycare with the dog.
Yeah.
So-
And like I said, that's not an endorsement. I'm sure there are plenty of dogs out there owned by, all tons of folks who aren't doing well and need some help.
Right.
And, I would encourage those people who see those animals to reach out to their local rescues and organizations,
Right.
and hopefully somebody can help.
As a human being, when you want a dog, you really do. You have to be adult enough. You have to have some emotional intelligence and plus IQ to really be able to sit down and say, okay, is this what I really want? Am I being am I just buying this puppy for my kid who's not going to pay any attention to it, not do any of the things that they promised to do for this,
Right.
"Oh, Daddy, I promise I'll take it out, I'll feed it, and they don't do any of that shit.
Yeah.
And then a year into it or something, bang, it ends up at your place, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you really got to, we have to be smarter about what we're about to do. I got lucky, and I'm older, but I got lucky with Dixie. It was just like, it was one of those things. My son asked me, and it's like, oh, shit. Okay, my son asked me, he knows this dog. If I don't do something, this dog's going to be dead. And how long do those places keep those dogs before they euthanize them? Is it?
It can depend
Yeah,
shelter
all
to
over.
shelter.
Right, it's all
Yeah,
over the
and
place, right?
Sometimes if they
Like
get
right away.
a dog fighting ring gets broken up and 15 dogs need to be taken in,
Right.
that
Bang,
can
they're
really,
done.
yeah, there's not a lot of rhyme or,
Right.
well, there's
Gotcha.
reason,
Right.
just not a lot of,
Right.
you can't expect,
Right. So, I mean, I go grab the dog and, it's like I literally can't remember my life before Dixie. It's so weird. It's like, it's so weird. I'm 67. I'm going to be 68 like next month. And it's like, I don't remember my first 60 years of life without this dog. It's like, we're best buds. And and she can be a pain in the ass sometimes. And it's not
sure
the most.
She says the same.
Yeah.
about you.
There's no doubt. And it's not convenient and it's expensive. So, I mean, if you're thinking about getting a pet, man, make sure, because it's just wrong. It's just wrong buying an animal and then going, oh shit, we screwed up. Now I got to find somebody that'll get rid of this dog for me. That's just bullshit. That's just wrong. Just don't, people are going to make mistakes. Nothing I say probably going to change them, but change that shit. That's just freaking wrong.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and it's funny. Me and my son were having a talk about the difference between knowing something and having the experience, and knowing something and how there's a difference in understanding.
It's true.
And sometimes owning an animal is one of those things. There's the knowledge of it, all the research, the preparation you can do for it. Right. And then there's the experience of it, which is a totally different thing.
That's true, Ryan.
And my recommendation in regards to that is to, no matter what decision you make throughout the entire process, is to really own that decision and make sure you're doing your best to do what's right for the animal and everybody involved, and have some patience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, and we see it with adopters, and we do have a certain amount of understanding. You take a dog in and, within the first few weeks, something isn't working out.
Bring it back.
And
Right.
what I mean, this goes back to what I'm saying about ownership is, the sooner the better you say something, the sooner we can start working on something. There's resources out there. Oftentimes, it's just a lack of information.
Right. So people sometimes will adopt a dog and they're having trouble and they're embarrassed to contact you.
Oh,
and
that is very typical.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think it's typical to us. I think that's just across the board.
Right.
I
That's
mean,
human nature.
It's the old, I'm not going to ask for directions.
Right.
I'll figure it out myself.
Right.
And it's like, if you just reached out a hand, reached out to ask, somebody would lend you a hand,
right,
for sure. Especially in our organization, we have myself and Don, our board president. He's an incredible dog trainer, and he goes to these folks' houses all the time to work with their dogs one-on-one.
Jeez, really?
It's just volunteer time. What I used to ask people to pay me for, he'll spend hours working with these folks, just giving them everything. And then also spending his free time at home reading books and watching videos and listening to podcasts. And, you can tell for people like him and all the other volunteers at the organization that it's really something that we're invested in doing as best as we can. And that doesn't mean mistakes aren't going to be made by adopters or ourselves, but I like to pride myself and our organization on taking ownership and saying, like, this is what we can do to make things better.
Right. Hey, somebody, while I'm thinking about it, somebody tag Kobe Fryer from Matt Blatt on this, if you guys would, because I want to see them. We could do one right there at their store in Egg Harbor Township, Matt Blatt Kia, and their other stores too. They're in Millville, so. And they're big into that stuff. So somebody tag Kobe on this if you would. What if we said 2 hours? It's like, what's Rogan say about this?
I think we went a little over, huh?
Time warp thing. We're actually over 3 hours. I think. What time is it?
That was quick.
Yeah. What time you got? What is it?
2:03.
2:03.
2:03.
Yeah, 3 hours. I mean, it is weird, isn't it?
It happens quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you see, I don't even know how you do an hour podcast. I really don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. But you could do it via Skype, those kind of things. That's easy. But when you get in a room together, it's like, bang, just goes, man.
My dog training sessions used to be hour sessions.
Right.
And I had to train myself. And still, I never fully mastered it. But
That'd
it was
be hard.
I had to,
Time's up.
really like. There's different things I tried, putting an alarm on my thing, looking at it's tough when you start talking about these things because especially with animal rescue, it's like we could go down any chute of the conversation and you could just go forever.
Right.
There's
right.
And then it connects to something else.
Well, I was going to say that because there's like a lot of stuff that probably you and I both didn't get into today that we should have got into. And maybe this maybe in a couple 3 months or something, have you back if you would.
Oh, that'd be fun. We would love that. Yeah, this has been a blast.
Bring somebody else. You know what'd be good? Bring a volunteer.
Oh, sure.
Bring one of your volunteers with you. That would
that'd be
I think
great.
that'd be interesting for the audience from that perspective as well too.
Oh yeah.
I think that'd be awesome. But so all right, let's wind this thing up this way.
Alrighty.
Best way people can get a hold of you, hold of somebody at Beacon. How, if they want to contribute money, which I'm saying, I know there's a lot of people on this podcast that I know have a crap load of money. So don't buy a watch this month. Send some money to Beacon Animal Rescue, and you can get that watch next month. Okay. But so how can people get a hold of you to adopt a dog or a pet rather? I'm sorry, I keep doing that. Or contribute, send money, or hold an event.
Okay.
How can people get a hold of you to do that kind of thing?
So for anybody who doesn't know, we are located in Ocean View, New Jersey. It's just outside of Ocean City, 701 Butter Road. We invite everybody when you get a chance to come out and see what we're doing there. Come hang out with the animals.
Good idea.
That's always a great experience. And for a lot of people who have maybe never been in a shelter or seen, what it means to be in animal rescue like that, it's a great little event. You can bring kids and bring the family and come check out what we're doing. Right. But the easiest way to contact us would be to check out our website at beaconanimalrescue.org. Beacon is BEACON.
BeaconAnimalRescue.org.
Okay. Yep. And we do have a donate link up there. We also encourage folks to sponsor some of the animals that we have. If you see somebody you're a fan of and you want to help sponsor them, our sponsorships start as low as $25 a month. And all of that money goes directly to helping save lives. Yep. Every dollar we pull in is directed towards how many more lives can we save with this. Yeah. We also recommend everybody, if you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook. It's Beacon Animal Rescue.
Yeah, it's an awesome Facebook page too. It's really good.
We try to post multiple pieces of content every day. Pictures of the dogs, the stories of what we're doing.
They do a nice job.
The adoptions, we appreciate it. We're working on it regularly. We're trying to.
It's good. It really is a good page.
Thank you. Trying to keep everybody in the loop regularly because your attention and your support literally helps save lives. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Right.
Our Instagram, beaconanimalrescue.org, or our phone number is located on all of our pages. You can always give us a call. Right. Feel free to ask for me if you're interested in setting up any type of event or fundraiser or anything like that. We love to recognize our supporters, all of our donors. We love to get as many people involved as possible because ultimately our mission isn't about Beacon. It's about these animals who need some help. Right. And if somebody doesn't stand up and do it, nobody's there to help them,
That's right. Yeah. Car dealers, please get on the bandwagon. You might even get a T-shirt. We got some cool T-shirts there. Let me see if I can show one of these. These are cool. Get that on camera. Beacon Animal Rescue. Yeah, let's see. Right there. Pretty awesome. That looks like that would fit me.
Anywhere. Large, Greg? Yeah. That's a large there, I think.
I'm getting back to large. I lost a lot of weight, and I'm
congrats.
Trying to put it back on again
never mind
with muscle. Spend a lot of time in the water, more than lifting.
I really want to say thank you for having us on here today, Craig,
Thank
because
you, man.
honestly, the biggest help for us is just getting that attention to let people know what's going on. I mean, it's hard to come across a person that once they learn what's going on isn't ready to help, and you know, avenues like this really make an impact on our ability to save lives.
Well, let's share this thing out, and when we clip some of it, I'll send make sure you get some of the clips.
Thanks.
So
Appreciate
you
that.
guys can maybe use that in your social too. I don't know.
We sure will.
But the YouTube replay, we got to clip the first intro, and for some reason with YouTube, the way the TriCaster works or the switcher works, and for the producer, we got to clip some of that. But when that's clipped, it'll be sometime late tonight. I'll make sure you get that link too.
Great, thank you.
For the YouTube portion of it. Of course, it can be shared from Facebook as well. The whole podcast, for that matter. But I really appreciate your time having
Thanks
you on.
for having us.
It's
Thank
been
you.
Awesome, man.
Right on.
And Dixie, you really did a good job, honey.
She was a good girl.
Wait, is she just laying there, just taking her nap? She being a good girl. Now we got to go home. Yeah, that got your attention, huh? All right, Ryan. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Craig.
And I guess I'll see you in the morning to walk Dixie. So
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Well,
Thanks for
tomorrow's
listening, everybody.
Tuesday, yeah. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Have a great day. Adopt
See
a
you guys.
dog.
Thank you.
Bye.